Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade, Justice, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Tuesday, July 7th, 2015. So I have been told. Our guest will be joining us momentarily. Really looking forward to the program. I think this is an important subject matter, worthy of written documentation as well. Hopefully this program will inspire that and might even be a footnote in future documentation. But before we get to that, we have been talking about the situation with George Takei, non-white male, so-called Asian male. He openly, publicly identifies as being gay. He is in a tragic arrangement, married to a white man. He voiced his displeasure with Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas over, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, or about a week or so ago. He voiced his displeasure. He wrote a letter, and he called Justice Thomas. He called him a clown in blackface. He said he had abandoned his African-American heritage, that he called him a disgrace to the country. He just, left no ambiguity with his displeasure. He has since apologized, and I'm writing about this as just another illustration of anti-blackness, particularly the way that his remarks were celebrated. And I also think this fits a pattern of black people being castigated as homophobic or somehow part of the problem of gay rights and gay people not having their rights, being able to marry and so forth. A part of George Takei, a part of his critique, he wrote a letter after he had like his initial outburst where he called him a clown in blackface. That was on camera in an interview he did with a Phoenix news station. And then he wrote, once he was able to calm down a little bit, he wrote out his critique specifically with Clarence Thomas, none of the other justices who dissented on same-sex marriage, but just Clarence Thomas, the only black male justice. So a part of that critique, he says that it is particularly ironic that Clarence Thomas is not in support of gay rights when his own marriage to a white woman, cowbell, would not have been allowed 50 years ago. And that really stuck out to me because I've seen so many examples over the past year or so where they have really went hard not just comparing black people and what we have endured with white supremacy to gay rights, but specifically the Loving court decision and saying that is such a similarity to the fight now for what they call marriage equality. I'm curious if there's feedback on that. I'm going to play two clips just to illustrate that point because I feel like this has been belabored over the last year. I'm going to play two quick clips, and then before the program concludes, if anyone has any thoughts specifically about the comment that it is particularly ironic for Clarence Thomas to be in opposition to what they call marriage equality, given that he is married to a white woman, and that was outlawed not too long ago. So these are the two quick clips, and then once they're done, our guest will probably be here, and we will get rolling. Context of white supremacy.
The Supreme Court's decision not to rule on same-sex marriage cases has led many to think back to a monumental Supreme Court ruling on matrimony from 1967. That was the year the justices struck down state bans on interracial marriage in the case Loving versus Virginia. It was named for the interracial couple who brought the case, Mildred and Richard Loving. To explore the history then and now, I'm joined by Walter Dellinger, who's former acting Solicitor General in the Clinton administration and was a Supreme Court law clerk to Justice Hugo Black the year after the Loving decision. Walter Dellinger, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let's talk about where the country was in 1967 on interracial marriage in terms of state laws. How many states allowed for interracial marriage and how many didn't?
Well, by 1967, when the court decided Loving, only 16 states still banned interracial marriage. What is interesting is that at the time the court decided Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, ending the system of Jim Crow public education, the majority of states banned interracial marriage. And similar to what the court has done with gay marriage, the court then was unwilling to take on the question of interracial marriage when it first came before the court 2 years after Brown, while it was struggling over the implementation of Brown. So it was only 13 years after the Brown decision that the court was willing in 1967 to take on interracial marriage in the Loving case.
It's interesting, though, because if you look at the states that did allow interracial marriage in 1967, most of those had done so for many decades. In some cases, they had never had any laws against it. This was not a fresh issue for a lot of those states.
That is true. That is true. The lines had hardened. A number of states, of the 30 states that had bans on interracial marriage at the beginning of the 1950s, half of them had gotten rid of those, but others had sort of reaffirmed their prohibitions on interracial marriage. And so by 1967, when that case came up before the Supreme Court, at that time they had no choice and were prepared to take on the issue.
Well, that's an interesting point. It was clear at that time that the justices did want to take this question of interracial marriage on?
Well, they had wanted to delay it until the issue of Brown and school desegregation had run its course. And by 1967, we had had the passage of the 64 Civil Rights Act and the 65 Voting Rights Act. And we were down to 16 states banning interracial marriage, and then the court was willing to act, even though the outcome legally was inevitable after the Brown decision a dozen years earlier. And I think you see the same pattern here, that really the gay marriage case was decided as a matter of logic a dozen years ago in 2003 when the Supreme Court in Lawrence against Texas struck down the laws that made homosexual acts a crime. The court took that on when 13 states still criminalized that activity, but they were unwilling to take on gay marriage even as recently as 2013 when more than 40 states still banned gay marriage. But now it's moving so fast that by the time the Supreme Court revisits the issue of gay marriage, you will have a majority of states and a clear majority of the people of the United States living in states that permit gay marriage.
Does that accelerated pace play a role here? In other words, the states that do allow same-sex marriage, the oldest state, Massachusetts, it's only allowed same-sex marriage for the last decade. So would the court be less likely to rule on an issue that is so fresh?
This issue may seem fresh, but it's moved so fast. There's a concept called the normative power of the actual. That is, what is seems right. And I think what the court is doing is letting more and more of the country get accustomed to the idea of gay marriage. The court knows where it's going on gay marriage and in some sense has known it for a dozen years. It's a question of timing. By waiting until more of the country has experienced their friends and neighbors being married and nothing bad happened, the less the court would provoke a backlash. And I think it does, and not inappropriately, influence the court.
Walter Dellinger, he's former acting Solicitor General in the Clinton administration. Mr. Dellinger, thanks so much.
The gay rights movement is changing everything.
The campaign for same-sex marriage rights has often been compared to the black civil rights movement of the 1960s, and that comparison has irritated many African Americans. Karen Grigsby Bates of NPR's Code Switch team wanted to find out why. She begins with someone who's been questioning the comparison.
Is the gay rights movement the same as the black civil rights movement? That is the distinction.
And it's an important one for African-American television host Roland Martin because, he says, black Americans back in the 60s were more disenfranchised than LGBT people are now.
And so when you had African-Americans in Jim Crow who couldn't vote, who couldn't stay in hotels, who couldn't stay in restaurants, but if you were white and gay, you could.
Reverend Patrick Walker agrees. He pastors the New Macedonia Baptist Church in Washington, D.C. He says same-sex marriage isn't compatible with his faith, and like Martin, he doesn't like folding the civil rights and gay rights movements together. Walker believes white LGBT folks have always had the option, no matter how painful, to keep their orientation private and escape discrimination.
I'm not advocating
or suggesting a don't ask, don't tell policy, but that is certainly a choice that the LGBT community has that African Americans and other minorities in this country do not have.
But some veterans of the traditional civil rights movement disagree. Georgia Congressman John Lewis is a revered icon of that movement, suffering brutal arrests and savage beatings in the struggle for African American equality. In a 2014 video for the organization Freedom to Marry, Lewis firmly linked the two movements.
I fought too hard and too long against discrimination based on race and color, not to stand up and speak up against discrimination against our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters. I see the right to marriage as a civil rights issue.
Many white members of the LGBT community feel they're indebted to the civil rights movement. Before he was a professor of media studies at the University of Southern California, David Craig was a social media strategist for the marriage equality movement in that state. On a bright, windy day at a sidewalk cafe near his Los Angeles home, Craig noted this momentous Supreme Court decision came decades after another one. In 1967, the High Court decided in favor of Mildred and Richard Loving, and interracial marriage became legal throughout the country.
That is the basis for which we were able to secure our rights today. So, in fact, we owe the African American community and the Loving couple incredible gratitude, and that legacy stems from those fights and those battles. And we are only able to be where we are today because of the civil rights struggle.
Now that the long-cherished goal of marriage equality has been achieved, Craig says white LGBT activists should reach out to Black Americans.
So we have an obligation now to turn to our people of color, whether LGBT or straight, and say, how can we help? We need to get you to the table. Thank you for helping us get there as well.
Former NAACP Chair Julian Bond is another veteran of the civil rights movement. Like John Lewis, Bond says African Americans should count the recent court ruling supporting marriage equality as a victory for them, too. For one thing, Bond says, there are many people who are LGBT and Black. For another,
we ought to be proud of this. Say, look what we did. We created a model that other people have followed, and they followed it successfully. Good for us.
In other words, Bond says, take that credit and own it. Karen Grigsby Bates, NPR News.
Context of White Supremacy. Okay. As I said, I'm interested if folks have thoughts. I'm looking forward to writing about this as soon as we get off the air. Well, I already started, but to finishing up writing on George Takei's comments specifically, and I can read you the quote. This is an article that he wrote at MSNBC about a week ago where he says, it seems odd that Justice Thomas, as an African American, would be an opponent of marriage equality. His own current marriage, if he had sought to have it some 50 years ago, would have been illegal under then existing anti-miscegenation laws. I cannot help but wonder if Justice Thomas would have felt any loss of dignity had the clerk's office doors been shut in his face simply because he was of a different race than his fiancée. It is a sad irony that he now enjoys the dignity of his marriage, equal in the eyes of the law to any others, while in the same breath proclaiming that the denial of marriage to LGBTs works no indignity. You can check it out. This is at MSNBC. They had him on the program as well to discuss all of this. At any rate, let's see our guest. I'm messaging now. All right, so anyway, he should be bringing us right back. But yes, at any rate, feel free. Save your thoughts, jot them down if you have a comment around that. As I said, specifically around that last portion, something just stuck out to me, thinking that it's incorrect, that there's something incorrect about that sort of assessment, even though I've been very clear about my, it's incorrect that we should not be having sexual intercourse with white people. But just that metaphor, that analogy, if folks have any thoughts on it, we will make time for that before we wrap things up. Jot them down. We'll get to our guest. Our program for today, I mentioned this program, I think, over the weekend. We played a segment over the past weekend, and we were talking about McKinney, Texas. I'm sure people remember the incident that happened with the pool situation in June. The party was a young black female who was horribly abused. I think Karma made a great point of saying that this was sexual abuse, that this was Eric Casebolt is the former officer's name, that he sexually molested this young girl, that this was not just about power, but this was about sexual power over this 14-year-old black female. He has since resigned. He has not been charged, kept his pension, the whole nine. But I think that was, everyone kind of became aware of McKinney, Texas with that incident. There was another incident in McKinney just about a week ago where two black males, they were on their property. In fact, I will pause and play the video, the news clip, so that you can see it. And once it's done, I will explain what stood out about all this, why I thought it was so important, and why I'm so glad we're having one of the victims in this incident as a guest on our program. But this is the second incident that has come to major attention regarding racism with the McKinney, Texas Police Department. Context of White Supremacy. Here we go.
Another video has emerged now, and there are new questions tonight surrounding a white McKinney police officer and his treatment of black residents. J.D. Miles live for us at McKinney PD with this exclusive tonight. J.D.?
Doug, the men involved in this video met today here with McKinney's police chief, but I'm told neither side backed down over whether the video you're about to see is good police work or another example of a McKinney officer abusing his power.
Get your hands up!
The officer charges toward them, pointing his gun and shouting orders.
What do we do? Get your hands up!
While Andrew Guilford stands on the driveway of his McKinney home and his friend Prezell Oliver records video on his phone.
Come this way!
Am I being detained?
You're being arrested.
Because the way that officer was acting, it seemed like he was going to shoot somebody.
Both men were unarmed and say they complied during the incident last week. Still, they were handcuffed and threatened with arrest. But for what?
If you're an officer, you should be able to address the situation better than they did and just let us know what you're on our property for.
Police say a woman called claiming one of the men was going to shoot her and cops. During a meeting with the men at headquarters, McKinney's police chief defended his officer, citing the serious nature of the call.
The police are coming.
But the men provided another video clip which shows they also called police to get the woman to leave. An ex-girlfriend of one of them who was parked in front of the house.
She basically was just stirring up trouble like if she was a teenager.
The video of an officer taking down a bikini-clad teenage girl at a pool party is still fresh on the minds of black community leaders who say this video is another example of racial profiling.
So it's the culture of the McKinney Police Department that we're wanting to change.
Now, no one was arrested or charged with anything. Both sides point to that as proof that they're right. Still, the men on the video were here earlier today to pick up paperwork to file an official complaint. Live in McKinney, J.D. Miles, CBS 11 News.
Context of white supremacy. Now, that sort of thing, certain folks who listen to this program, the C.O.W.S, or any other programs, and are aware, honest about the system of white supremacy, understand that that sort of thing happens all the time, all over the world. We've had documentation, different reports on it, down in Brazil, the UK, worldwide problem. Enforcement officers abusing, terrorizing, killing, raping, choking black people. Got it. This situation, I think the first report that I saw, I just kind of checked it out, and it, any other case, I looked for a different clip just to see if there was a little bit more detail. And when I did, it was the report that you just heard. And the thing that stood out immediately when they said ex-girlfriend came to start up trouble, called the police, said that, people were threatening, they had guns, brandishing weapons, and were going to shoot police. In the news clip that you just heard, they have some of the YouTube footage from these two young black victims where they show this woman who to me looks like a white woman who's outside in her vehicle, and they said that, hey, we called the police ourselves. We were trying to get assistance in getting this woman to leave our property. She came to start up trouble. That's what you heard in the clip. I thought it would be great to have them on the program specifically to get more information about that. And to see if there is indeed a pattern, because I think for folks who did some exploring on that McKinney situation, it seems like that too was instigated by racist white women. That is a huge problem, something that gets minimized all the time, and I hope this will provide some clarity on that subject matter. Joining us, again, unfortunate circumstances. I wish we could be meeting to talk about his billion-dollar corporate venture and other great successes, new scientific discoveries, but unfortunately, we are meeting to talk about being abused by the McKinney Texas Police Department. One of those victims, Mr. Andrew Guilford. Mr. Guilford, are you with us, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Peace, family.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of your Tuesday evening to speak with us. I guess to get started, anything that you think our listeners should know about you, anything that you think it would be important for them to know about who you are?
I guess I could give just a brief introduction. My name is Andrew Guilford, as it's been stated. I'm a 23-year-old African-American male. I'm pretty revolutionary. I'm really down for my people, and it's just crazy that I attracted this negativity from the police. I don't really have anything to say about myself in detail.
Okay. That will suffice. You already said African-American male, 23 years old. This program, I have concluded that what is producing all of these different incidents, the pool situation with Officer Case Bolt rolling on the ground and ravaging this 14-year-old black female, what happened to you, all of this is the result of the system of white supremacy. I use the term racism and the term white supremacy, I use them as synonyms, and I use the same definition for both terms. The definition I use is as follows: a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do you think such a system exists? Do you think that's an accurate definition?
Most definitely. We've been living in this system our entire lives. It's in existence. And also them controlling our means of money is also racism too, controlling our means of money based over our skin color.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We talk about economics on the program on a consistent basis in terms of how they manipulate, manage, and keep us in dire financial strait. I guess to get right to your situation, I'll encourage folks if they have questions to call in. If folks who've seen the video, I know we did talk about it this past weekend. With your situation specifically, before we even get to the arrest, I want to get to what to me seems like the crux of all of this. Who is this chick that was outside that you all, I guess, were having some sort of exchange with prior to the police even arriving?
Yes, sir. Well, it's a friend of mine. It was his girlfriend, his baby mother, and they got into a little disagreement down the street at his house, about around the corner. It's maybe 2 minutes from my location, and I believe they followed him to my house because my situation is I was upstairs asleep, and all I heard was ruckus downstairs. So basically that's when I came and approached the situation. So prior to that, all I know is it was my friend's girlfriend. It's not my friend that videotaped it. That was our home, but it was a friend that usually comes over, every day. We always kick it. His girlfriend has been over there. We've kicked it with her also. And so I guess they just got into a little drama, a little beef, and she was with her mother also. So they just then came and followed him to the house, I guess. That's how it went down. Until I came and, I played my part after I seen what was going on.
Okay. I'm making sure I understand. So, a friend of yours, is this a black male friend of yours?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so a black male friend of yours, he and his, I guess, ex-girlfriend or the mother of his child, they had some sort of conflict or argument away from your residence, and then they moved to where your residence is, and they continued, I guess, to have whatever argument or what have you that they were having, and you clarified that this is not, I guess, this black male, that this is not the same person that you can see on the video. For people who saw the video clip of the audio we started the program with, that these are two different black males. Is that correct?
Correct. He was present. Never mind. He was present, but as far as him being in this ordeal, it really took place between me, the police department, and Prezell Oliver, who was recording everything.
Okay. All right. And so you said that it was this black male's baby's mother, and then her mom was also with her. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, her mom was there. Like I said, I was asleep, so I woke up because I heard yelling. I just heard a lot of yelling in the garage. It almost seemed like it was fighting going on in the garage. So I came down. I got up and I went downstairs, and that's when I seen the two women, the girl and her mother, and they were in the garage on our property, basically acting like they were trying to start some type of fight. I didn't know what was going on, so I told them to get off of our property. They shouldn't be in our home because I consider the garage inside my home. And also, this is the woman's second time entering my home, unannounced and uninvited. So that really ticked me off, and I just basically was telling her that she needed to leave. And they then went and got up in their car that was parked in front of the house, if you see on the second video that we posted. And that's when she then continued to call the police.
Okay. Now, the video that they posted on the news clip that I've seen, to me, it looks like a white woman sitting in the front seat of the car. Is this a white woman that was in the front seat of the car?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was that the woman's mom, or is that...
Yeah, that was the mother. The mother was sitting in the driver's seat. We had got her on camera.
Okay.
You definitely, yeah.
Okay. Now,
and she was the one that was on the phone, the one that was making the phone call.
Got it. Okay. How old about do you estimate this white woman to be?
Oh, maybe in her mid-40s, possibly. I would believe she's in her mid-40s.
Okay. I told when I was explaining, I said that this does not look like a young white one. To me, this looks like I'd be very generous if I said late 30s. You're saying
right.
Mid-40s. Okay. So you come out, you said that this is not the first time that this woman has been on your property, or what have you. You came out, hey, she's arguing, seeming like she wants to start a fight, lots of commotion. Hey, you got to go, get off my property. You shouldn't be in my garage. Does she leave immediately, or is there, any type of resistance about that?
Of course she left. I don't want to say that she resisted, but to me, her sitting in her car and sitting in the front yard was resisting me telling her to leave. So, Nevertheless, she somewhat resisted.
Okay. So she gets in her car, and is she saying anything, or is she just sitting in the car looking at you all?
So she's in the car, and we're just arguing back and forth. I'm basically just telling her how she shouldn't be there. She doesn't have that right to come here, starting trouble like that, and that basically was just immature. And I realized that she was on the phone, and I heard her say that there are 4 black men. So I immediately knew she was on the phone with the police at that time. So I was basically just charging her up about talking to the police and calling the police. Threats to her about any weapons, or I never said anything about having a weapon. I just told her that if she came on my property again, that there would be repercussions. And I couldn't really hear what she was saying to the police on the police call. I don't really know because, like I said, I was having my conversation with her. I was yelling at her back and forth, and I was still talking to my friends that were on the driveway. We were just waiting to see what was going to happen. We just anticipated the police coming. We thought that everything would get settled, and as you see on the videotape, it turned out to be a whole different situation.
Right. And I want to, kind of go over. I almost view that as two separate incidents, like what happened with this white woman and then how that produced everything that then transpired with you in the McKinney Police Department.
Right.
So she's on the phone. You ascertain, you think she's talking to the police. These 4 black guys are out here, and she tells them apparently, did you hear her say that you all had guns?
No, I didn't hear her say that personally.
Okay. But I guess the police, they eventually say that was a part of the phone call that they got, the 911 phone call. You all did eventually call the police yourselves to try to help get her away from your property, but it seems like you all called the police after she had already called. Is that correct?
Yes. We called the police after the police came. After they came and left, the woman then came back, and that's when I called the police.
I see. So had the incident where you all were handcuffed by the enforcement officers, did that happen the first time the police came, or did that happen the second time?
Yeah, that was the first incident.
The first. Okay. So after the whole handcuffing and everything, this woman is back. Does she leave and come back?
Yes, sir. She left and she came back in the exact same spot that she left.
Wow. What does she do the second time around?
Honestly, the second time when she came, she wanted to apologize. That's what she was telling me. I don't know if she felt sorry about what she had seen the police do to us, but she came and she said that she wanted to personally apologize to me, and I don't care. I didn't want to hear an apology. And so I told her that I had called the police, and they were on their way. And they weren't too far because about a minute after I called, they were back on the street. And, that's not usual when you're in a black neighborhood like that.
So they come right back. Do they make her leave the property, or does she leave before they get there?
What happened was the police officer got out of his vehicle, and I told him that this woman came back after. I said she had been sitting here for about 10 minutes, and that was after you guys left. This police officer, his name is Officer Davis, he says that he wanted to be smart with me, and he said, well, I've been gone I was just here 10 minutes ago, so she had to, it couldn't have been that long that she's been here. So I said, nevertheless, I don't want her on my property, and you guys know this. And we walked up to the car, and Officer Davis asked me to leave, even though I'm the one that called. He asked me to walk away. And I explained to him that she wanted to apologize to me, or she wanted to have a conversation with me. So she backed that story up and said, yes, I want to apologize to the young man. And she started to apologize, and she started giving me the story. And I basically let her get a sentence out, and I cut her off, and I asked her, why are you still on my property? And Officer Davis then looks at me and says, she's trying to explain why she's on your property. I told him, I don't want an explanation. I just want her to get off the property. I don't want an apology. My feelings are hurt. So he then tells me if I don't want to hear her, then I need to go in the house. So now me and Officer Davis are having another issue because I'm arguing with him, telling him that I'm not going to leave when I'm the one that called. I'm supposed to sit here and witness what's taking place. And after he got tired of talking to me, he turned to her and he told her to leave, just like that. He said, leave the property. And she started her car and she left. I said it was that easy. I didn't have to sit here and do all of this talking and all of this listening. You could have just told her to get off of my property. And he should have issued her a C.O.W. also, which they never did. They should have done that the first time, and they definitely should have done that the second time when I called, and that wasn't even an option. So they just, I guess she got off the property. It was Officer Davis and Officer Rimpel, and they just proceeded to leave, and I walked inside.
And a C.O.W. is?
A criminal trespassing warrant.
I see. Wow. Of course they didn't issue that. Of course. Wow. Now, see, that's why I said I was way more intrigued once I got that extra bit of information about this white woman who instigated, or apparently two white women who instigated this whole brouhaha that we haven't even heard about. Before we even get to the police aspect of it, the first time around, the police, when now knowing it seems just using logic that she did, in fact, tell these enforcement officers that you all had guns and that you were threatening and that you all were going to shoot the police when the police arrived. Do you think that this was a deliberate act of racism on this white woman's part?
If that's what she said on the police call, then most definitely. Because I thought it was an act of racism when she had to explain to them that there were 4 black men in the driveway at my own home. So, I haven't heard the police call. I went to go talk to the chief of police, and I wasn't able to hear the call personally on that occasion. So I don't want to necessarily say that she said something if she didn't say that, because from my understanding, the police can also have made up their own story. You know what I'm saying? They could have also just said that we had guns and they got a call, and it could just be as simple as that. So until I get to hear the official police call, I can't really state what she said as far as on the call. But nevertheless, when I heard the words 4 black men, I'm not saying that she's a racist, but I believe she used that white privilege card very well.
That's one of the distinctions that I try to make, and even before all of that, number one, I want to make sure that I give out my commendation for black self-respect for Mr. Guilford and declining her apology. There's been so much conversation this whole year about black people forgiving acts of racism, and I think Glenn Ford, we heard his interview last week. He just passed away. He was locked up for 3 decades for a crime he didn't commit, and the white prosecutor came in and apologized, and he said, no, I'm not going to accept your apology. You ruined my whole life. What do I look like, telling you, yes, I forgive you after you terrorized me? So I definitely high commendation for declining her apology. You all could have died. And second thing, I definitely appreciate that distinction, because absolutely enforcement officers can lie. They do lie. They absolutely could have just made up a story to say, oh yeah, she said that you all had guns and all of that. So I absolutely appreciate that bit of clarification. Just wanting to be sure. Let's hear the audio tape so we can confirm exactly what was said. And just for the record, gun statement aside, just her calling the police as a white woman and saying that these 4 black guys are here, you think that in and of itself could have been an act of racism on her part?
Most definitely, sir.
Right on. And the distinction I was going to make, on this program, I discourage the use of the term white privilege, because that really is not accurate in terms of what happened. We'll put it like this. When we get done with the ordeal that you and your friend endured, we'll see if privilege is the most accurate term to describe what white people are doing to us. If there's a better term to describe what is happening here and the pattern that has emerged from McKinney, Texas over the past month or so.
Over the past decade.
Absolutely. Do you want to give some background over the past decade?
Well, see, me personally, I'm not from McKinney, Texas. I'm originally from Rialto, California, and I've been out here since 2008. And since I've been out here, I've seen my own idea of what I would call police brutality amongst black people, and I've seen it from every race of officers out here. I've even been personally stopped by the same officers on multiple occasions, and I don't know if that's a personal attack of any sort, but the stories that I get from the elders of McKinney, they even have worse stories than this situation, man. It's always a story. It's repetitive. It's a cycle out here, and it's the way that McKinney PD is ran. It's obviously some type of infrastructure amongst themselves that I don't know if I thought they were just turning up the heat after this pool incident and after what happened with me. I started thinking, with everything going on in this world, it seems like the police forces are just turning up the heat and just waiting for the opportunity to murder a black individual. But like I said, the more that I talk to the elders of the community and the community leaders that have been here their whole lives, they have stories to tell, so many stories upon stories, and they're still dealing with it as grown men. And also, one thing that I want to say is the police definitely use white privilege, because there was a white woman that was with us also. We have a friend that was with the 4 black men. So it should have been 4 black men and 1 white woman is what she should have been saying on the phone, but she never mentioned the 1 white woman as far as I know. I never heard her say anything about the white woman. And when the police came, you can hear it on the videotape, they asked if she was the one that called, meaning if the girl that was with us on our driveway, if she called the police. And we had to tell the police, no, it's the woman in the car right in front of your face. So the fact that they went and told us to put our hands up, and they go to our white friend and ask her, are you the one that called the police? And didn't give her a hard time at all. Just shows the system of white privilege, white supremacy.
Wow. Wow, that's fascinating. Have you heard, I guess, either from some of the elders in your area, or your parents, or just any other black people that you've been around throughout your 23 years on the planet, any words of caution about being around white women or hanging out with them, that, you know, things can go bad very quickly for black people, particularly black males, in the presence of white women? Had you had any sort of warnings like that?
Well, I mean, I was born in 1991, so I grew up in the era. I'm growing up in the era where, in my teenage years, I've witnessed the stories of white women basically false claiming things amongst black men, or you could just look at the history of it. You know, we was being castrated just for looking up at a white woman, not even saying anything to her. So my parents definitely instilled that in me, that I have to be careful. You know, they never taught me to be prejudiced, but they just taught me to be careful and just not discriminate. Me personally, from my experiences growing up, from the things that I've witnessed, I just never wanted to put myself in that position. So I always worry about self. I'm not attracted to recessive women. I'm only attracted to melanin beings, and I definitely see the cycle of white women and how they can basically destruct the black man.
You said that your parents, that you're aware, Emmett Till and some of the other incidents where white women have caused a lot of problems for black people, and false claims and what have you, things of that nature. You said that your parents, they didn't tell you to, or they didn't want you to, quote unquote, discriminate, but they, you know, advised you to be careful.
Just be cautious, you know, and the thing about it is it's really no way to be cautious. You have to be in that position, and you have to know that person. As far as if I wanted to date a white woman, then I would have to know her personally, and it's still gonna linger. You know, it's not really a safe haven when you're with somebody like that, because at any given time, anything could go wrong. She could call the police, and things go sideways any given moment, just for the fact that you're a black man with a white woman. Because you know the police don't want to see that either.
Do you think that there are some white people that do not practice racism?
Yeah, I know that there's white people out there that do not practice racism, but the way that this society is, the way that America is ran, man, it's kind of hard to not have some type of racism in your mentality, just from what we're fed through the media and through television, and it's just kind of hard, you know. Everybody has those white friends, but when stuff really hits the fan, then you see their true colors, and you see that what side they're going to be on. They're either going to, and the way I look at it is, you're either going to be on the side of good, or you're going to be on the side of evil. It's not hard to see good and evil, and, you know, from my experiences, usually they just stick to the evil when things hit the fan.
You said that when this whole incident went down, that you had a white female friend present. Do you think that does she qualify as a white person that does not practice racism?
Most definitely, I could say that about her. We're friends. We kick it on a daily basis, almost, if not daily, then every other day. She's never said anything that was even semi-racist, or even if she thought it would be funny to say because she hangs with black people. Like, she's never done anything like that. She's a very humble young woman, and so I can I know her mother, you know, so I can definitely say that they don't practice racism. They embrace us. They love us like if we're their own, and it's not even to a degree of loving us because they think that they're showing pity amongst black men, or they think that we're in a certain situation where they have to show us love like if we're some type of animals, but they literally show genuine love is what I'm basically trying to say. So no, I wouldn't say that she practices any acts of racism. So like I said, I still keep it strong. You know, I still keep strong to what I say. You know, you just never know. You have to know personally because anything could happen at any given time, and it could go the opposite direction.
Right. How old is she?
I believe she is 21.
21. Okay. And did she what did she do specifically during this whole ordeal? Like when the white woman was there the first time, the police, the white woman comes back. Like, what did she do during this whole ordeal?
Well, when they asked her if she called, she told them that she didn't call. And to be honest, I'm not sure if they put her in handcuffs. I would have to get her story because I wasn't facing her when I was put in cuffs, so I don't know if they put her in cuffs. But from the exchanges that I've had with my friends that was there, I've been told that she was treated very politely. So I don't really know. And when the woman came back the second time, my friend wasn't even outside at this time. Everybody was inside the house. We told everybody to go inside, and when I called the police, I was the only one that was outside at the moment.
Okay. But, I mean, did she try to speak up to make sure the officers knew that nobody had a gun, or to let them know that this woman had been causing a ruckus and shouting on your property, no less, that she tried
I believe so. When the police addressed her and they went to talk to her, I'm pretty sure she told them that we didn't have any guns because, like, everybody was confused as to what was going on, and I'm pretty sure she was confused too. And whatever question they would have asked her, if they asked her, did we have a gun, she definitely would have said no. I would know that for a fact. And so I don't know, man. I feel like they try to get something out of her. She's not that type of person, and there just wasn't anything for them to receive. They didn't have any evidence. They didn't have any truth to being there. So it was kind of like, I believe she was on our side. She was telling them our story. She was telling them that the woman called, and that was really about it. But I don't really think they gave her an opportunity to even do that much talking either, because they still came back and proceeded to handcuff, put us all in handcuffs, and they had us in handcuffs for 30 minutes just sitting there doing nothing. So,
what would your response be? Because I know we've talked about this situation, and particularly on this program, emphasizing how dangerous white women are, and I wouldn't care if it's an 80-year-old white woman, 8-year-old white woman, whatever the case may be. They are dangerous for this type of thing to happen, especially deceptive, in my experience. What would your response be to some of our listeners who might say, hey, Mr. Guilford, we haven't even heard all the details about what happened to you, but it sounds like you do not have adequate suspicion of white people. It sounds like you have white people hanging around your residence in a casual manner. Even this rowdy woman had been on your property before. You had another white woman who you said is your friend who hangs out and what have you. It sounds like you do not have an adequate understanding of racism, and that you do not have sufficient recognition of the danger that white people and white women in particular represent, that leave you vulnerable for events like this to happen. What would your response be?
Well, like I said, I'm a loving being, so I don't discriminate, and I can't control who comes around me as far as when I'm with my brothers and I'm with my friends, you know, if they want to bring a white woman around, I don't really have a place to tell them that she doesn't belong there. I have to personally witness and have evidence of why she doesn't belong there. But, I mean, that argument could be made. You know, that argument could definitely be made. But like I said, I'm a conscious being. I'm a conscious young man. So I understand. I feel like I can tell somebody's true nature by me being around them for a certain amount of time, and just by how they carry themselves around me. I mean, I understand white supremacy and I understand racism. And to be honest, I'm all for segregation of races, but like I said, I just can't control people that come around me in that matter. If it was a personal friend of mine, like she is a personal friend, but what I'm basically trying to say is I met her through my brother. So me personally, I don't have any associates like that. I've never met a white girl and, you know, I say, hey, you want to come chill and you want to come kick it with me and all of that, because I have the mindset of how they people are already. But if it just so happens to attract to me, or if they just so happen to attract in my vicinity, then, you know, I'm just not a judgmental person. I have to just see it to believe it.
I see. I see. I just want to make sure I'm clear. When you say that you kind of met this white woman through your brother, are you talking about the white friend, or are you talking about this white?
Well, really both.
Okay.
But I was referring to the friend of mine that she comes around, the one that I called a friend. I wouldn't call the other one a friend.
Got it. Okay.
So it's definitely a difference, man. It's just really it's hard to discriminate. That's not of our nature. So it's hard to just discriminate amongst people, but you know, like I said, it's not hard to see somebody's true colors at the same time.
Just my response before we get to the police incident would be, I guess, number one, just with words in terms of white supremacy. That's something that I really try to be cautious about, is the terms and making sure that I'm using the most accurate terms possible to describe things. I don't call it discriminating. If white supremacy, racism does exist, then I call it making logical, counter-racist, counter-war strategies. And one of those strategies might be that if there is a white race that is hostile to me as a black person, I need to be very cautious about being around them, maybe even trying to minimize the amount of contact that I have with them, if at all possible. And then I got to be really on guard when I am around them, because they have shown there's a clear, long, undeniable body of white pathology, white terrorism directed at black people. And I think one of those behavioral responses, not discriminating, but just saying, I do not have white people around my living quarters voluntarily. And just letting that be known, like that, if this is a brother or a good friend of yours who they married a white person, or they have a good, white friend, in quotes, and they say, hey, Mr. Guilford, I want to, swing by, stop by, say what's up, what have you, and I'm bringing Susie, I'm bringing Dave. If this is a white person, just saying, hey, you do whatever you do, that's fine. But I do not have white people around my living quarters. So, we'll have to kick it someplace else, or whatever the case may be. But I do not have white people around my living quarters. They're dangerous. They've shown themselves to be enemies to black people. That is a counter-racist code that I know people have in place. And at least from what I've heard thus far, it seems like if that had been in place, then none of this would have happened. Is that correct? If you did not allow any white people on your premises, if that was just a bedrock part of your code that everyone knew, would that have negated this whole incident from even getting started?
Most definitely, because if that was the case, then my friend wouldn't have been over there with his baby mother in the first place.
Let's get to what happened that could have been negated if we had no white friends. So the white woman, to summarize, white woman, friend of yours, I guess baby's mama drama, starts out away from your residence. They migrate. They get to your house. This white woman, she has her white mother with her who's in her 40s. They're arguing. They're at your garage. You come downstairs. They've disturbed your rest. You come downstairs. This woman's been here before. You ask them to leave. She does go. She gets in her vehicle. The white woman, her daughter, they get in their vehicle. They still haven't left. The mom calls the police. You can hear her say something about 4 black males. You do not hear her say anything about a weapon or a gun, but at least it seems that might have happened. Her telling the police that you all had weapons and would shoot the police officers. She calls the police. The police arrive, and what happens next?
So the police arrive. First of all, it was a event going on at the school. We have a little Holy Family school right down the street, up the street, because I live at the last house on the dead end. So they parked their cars down the street next to the school, and the school has some type of event going on with the little children, little preschoolers or elementary students, I don't know. But so we basically seen them about, I want to say about 200 feet away. And they came trotting up. They didn't come walking. They came trotting up like a light jog. And it was officer, like I stated his name, Officer Rimpel. He was the officer on the tape that was doing the yelling and telling us to put our hands up. So he asked us, he came up, he approached us, he told us to get our hands up after he drew his weapon. And we put our hands up, of course. He yelled because he didn't like the way that our hands were up. He wanted our hands raised, like if we were trying to touch the sky. And so until we got our hands all the way up, he just kept his gun pointed at us and yelling at us. It was my friend Prezell that was on the camera who was recording, who asked, and that was his residence also. He asked, what did we do? The officer couldn't tell us what we did. He couldn't tell us if we were being detained. They didn't identify themselves as McKinney PD when they came up. And so then he asked Prezell to come to him, and my friend Prezell, he walked towards him with his hands up. And that's when you see on the camera, he grabs him by the arm, he used excessive force, put him in handcuffs, throws his phone down. Luckily, the phone still recorded the incident. And basically, they put us all in handcuffs one by one as far as the 4 black men. I can't speak on if they put the white woman in handcuffs. And we told them that, well, after we told them who called, I believe they just told her to leave. Because the woman that made the phone call that was sitting in the car, she left about 2 minutes after the police got there. So they didn't even take a police report from her. And we then just kept asking, what's going on? Why are we handcuffed? Why did we get guns drawn on us? They said that they got a phone call stating that if they came back to that residence, that we were going to shoot them and have an all-out war with the McKinney police. We told them we didn't have any guns. We complied with you guys. Officer Rimpel tried to enter our home. We had our door locked and our garage closed, and he tried to enter our home through the front door without a warrant, and this was before the whatever law that they just passed about entering your home without a warrant, without a search warrant. And he was pretty upset because we had the door locked and he couldn't go inside. And they just basically had us just sitting there all day. My friend John Elgin is another young man that was in the altercation, and he's allergic to grass, and they had him sitting in the grass. He takes medication for it. So that was an issue. We were basically just trying to figure out what was going on and when we were going to be able to be released out of the handcuffs. Because, like I said, we were just sitting in the neighbor's yard handcuffed. They didn't handcuff us on our property. They handcuffed us and placed us on the neighbor's yard, and they just continued to have conversation amongst themselves while we sat there handcuffed.
Wow. Now, how about, you said, was it about 30 minutes approximately, the entire time that you all were handcuffed?
Yeah, about 20, 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes.
25, 30 minutes. And from the time that they handcuff you, they pat you down to ascertain whether or not you have any weapons on you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They searched every one of us, got our IDs out of our pockets if we had it. Like my friend Prezell had his wallet and things on him, so they got his identification. They had to write my identification down. And that also didn't feel good either, you know, having to give them my information as if I did something wrong. And it was just, yeah, that's really all. They then, I guess after they were bored, I want to say, they then unhandcuffed us, and I proceeded to get the officers' names and badge numbers, and they really, you know, they don't really like that. They weren't trying to comply when it came to that, but they did end up giving me their badge numbers and names, but one officer didn't put his badge number down. I don't know if he purposely did that or not, but the assistant chief of police pulled up with another officer. I can remember his face now. It's just a little smirk on his face, and basically they were trying to point us out to be some hot-headed young black men because we weren't too enthusiastic about the fact that we had guns pointed at us and there was no report taken, and they couldn't tell us what we can do to file a report for the false accusation that was filed amongst us.
Was there any justification given as to why you all had to remain handcuffed for an additional 20, 25 minutes after they ascertained you didn't have any weapons?
It really wasn't any justification. Again, on the videotape, you can hear me. There was an officer. He was trying to explain what was going on, and really, what he was saying was, we get a call. McKinney PD gets a call that there's guns on the property. So that was basically his justification. He was trying to say, so we have to come and approach you guys in this manner. So I basically told him that, you know, we're not listening to you right now, sir. You know, you guys need to do what you need to do so that we can get out of these handcuffs. We're not trying to converse. And he basically told me to hush. You can hear it on the camera. I said, okay, I'm going to hush. And then I continued to talk, and I said, we don't have any guns. We don't have any drugs. You tried to search the house. You already searched us. And he said, we know that now. And I asked him, so why are we still handcuffed? And he turned to my friend and said, tell your boy to hush. And that was it. He didn't give me an explanation of why. So he just kept trying to justify why they ran up on us with their guns drawn, but even that justification was pretty plain. It was just a matter, because I feel like you never came the first time in the first place. That was the first time you came is when you guys drew your guns. So if you got a call stating that we were going to go to war with you if you came back, then where was the SWAT team at? Or I don't understand why they would bring some regular officers back if we're threatening with guns. And I don't understand why a woman who calls and says that we have guns would still be sitting in our front yard if we indeed had guns and threatened her.
I would not be surprised if this white woman had contact, like if she knew some people. How big is this town? Like, what's the population in McKinney?
It's about population 170,000.
Okay, so that's nice size, large size, or larger size city. It would not surprise me if she knew any enforcement officers. I've seen that as a pattern down through the years as well, certainly in smaller cities. But that wouldn't surprise me. Before I even move forward with this incident, I'll just pause. This is a great illustration, and the point that I'm about to bring up, great illustration. When I hear people say, you know, I don't check the news because it's all lies, and I'm just not going to check it. It's like the most ignorant, irrational commentary of all time. I mean, it pains me to even have to offer a justification as to why that makes no sense. Number one, if you don't read the news, you would totally miss an incident like this, probably the earlier incident that happened with the pool situation too. Also, when you see an incident like this, if you check the news, was there an incident that happened in a Texas airport recently where a white man had some sort of firearm and he, had to make sure that he flexed and emphasized that he had his Second Amendment rights to have a firearm, and, they basically just kind of talked to this guy and let him go? Did that just happen in Texas recently?
Yeah, that did. I don't know the exact city, but that did. That was in Texas.
Is Texas an open carry state?
Yes, it is.
Wow. So if you did have a firearm and you were legally, you had all your paperwork and everything, and to do so, that would not be a crime to stand out on your lawn with a gun.
Exactly, especially if somebody's trespassing and I ask them to leave.
From what?
Just walking on property out here. You can walk on somebody's property out here and get a gun drawn out on you. You know what I'm saying? Really, the sidewalk. You have, man. We're in Texas. You have elderly white women that'll pull out a shotgun for you walking on the curb in front of their house because they know they have that right to do so.
From where this incident started at, and I can put this on the memory of Bo Morrison, where black life doesn't matter. He was killed at the exact same time as Trayvon Martin, and nobody knows his name. This was in Wisconsin, if memory serves. But he was there was a party. The police were called. He was trying to run to get away because I think he might have been like 20. He might have been underage and under the influence, but he was trying to get away. And he hid on the neighbor's property. I think he was on their like driveway or just a part of the house outside, but he was on their property, and it was late at night. It was after midnight. The guy comes downstairs. He's got his gun. Guy's on his property. Bam! Kills him. Black male, Bo Morrison. Kills him. Justified shooting, castle doctrine. This white woman causing a ruckus and being in your garage. I don't know what the laws are in Texas, but from my experience and the way Texans get down, and just in this country on the whole, if you're on somebody's property causing a ruckus, we don't have to have a whole lot of conversation about nothing. It can be, hey, get off my property or the bullets are going to be flying. They just did a movie about that in Georgia where a white man killed a black male who was in his house. He didn't invite him. His daughter did invite him, but he didn't know that. And he shot and killed him in the house. And I think he got like 6 months at a recreational facility or something silly. And, he's on his way. At any rate, so 30 minutes. And this is what I mean about the word white privilege. In my view, if I have to be shackled and thrown on the ground for 30 minutes on my own property, based on a lie, either from this white woman or the police or some collusion on the part of everybody, privilege is not really the most accurate term, in my opinion, to describe all of this. If you can do this with impunity and do this continually all over the planet, because, this happens all the time, where police just come and rough up black people for no reason and nobody goes to jail. There's no evidence of a crime or anything. That's not really privilege. In my opinion, that is just straight terrorism, what you're doing, where you have more power. Not privilege. You have more power than another group of people, and you just like to have fun going around and terrorizing and abusing them. To me, that seems way more accurate. If I'm wrong, please set me straight.
Oh, no, man. You sound 100% right to me. All over the world, all over the globe, man. They're all terrorists everywhere they go. It's throughout history. It's existing right now. And the thing about it also is it's easy to say that if I had a firearm, that I could have handled it differently. Because even with the police coming up on my property like that without identifying themselves, I could have drawn a firearm. But, like, for instance, say I shot a white woman in her 40s who walked on my property. I'm really not confident that in Texas I would get justice as a black man.
Amen. I totally agree. Amen. We just had that conversation about black people and gun rights, and they're not as stringent about defending and protecting black
Seems
people.
like that law was made to keep us away from white civilians, and that's really it. I don't think that law even works for us. We could fight it. You could stand up against it, but that's a big fight right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had the I forgot her name, but we had the black woman in Florida who sent the warning shots to the man that was trying to beat her up, and he was a black man, and it was like she shot warning shots in the air, and she was in jail for 3 years?
Marissa Alexander.
And she just got out.
I see some of the folks have questions that they want to dial in. I just wanted to ask before I get to the callers, you had a meeting with the chief of the McKinney Police Department after this whole incident came out, you all went to the police department to kind of voice your concerns about what you thought was incorrect about this. The chief is Gregory Connolly. For folks who followed the whole pool incident, it was Mr. Connolly who came out and gave the initial press conference.
Right.
When the whole incident, everybody first found out about it, to say that we're going to investigate, and he basically didn't answer any questions. It was about 10 minutes of, I don't know, we're investigating, and then about 2 days later, when Officer Casebolt resigned, he gave the second press conference where he said, this was unacceptable, what he did, and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. But this is the same guy that you all met with to discuss what happened to you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We met with him. And it wasn't as successful as we planned for it to be. We wanted more answers. We really only got to talk to the man for about 2 minutes, if that, because we asked if we can record the conversation, and he didn't want it to be recorded. So he said we can record it. First he said no, but then he gave his reasons on why he didn't want to record it, just to say you have the right to record me. And but if you record me, then I'm going to assume this is like a press conference, so I'll treat it like a press conference. So he just did like a brief statement of how he felt like what they did was okay, and he dismissed us from then on. Didn't answer any of our questions, dismissed us. And about an hour later, he called my representative, and he basically explained to him that he wished that the conversation could have went differently, and that we need to schedule another appointment so that we don't, and he doesn't want it to be recorded. And he also didn't like the fact that prior to our meeting, the media showed up, a news station showed up, and they wanted to interview us, and we allowed them to interview us before we went inside and spoke with the chief of police. So they don't really like that type of drama either. So I guess he just had a problem with that. And yeah, so it was crazy. It was just crazy that he didn't want to talk to us, but he called about an hour later to explain how he wants to talk to us.
Tacky, trashy, terroristic. Do not expect anything better. And to me, that just shows the whole hypocrisy of it all. Because anything, if I'm proud of it, right? This is textbook McKinney Police Department policing right here. This is what we do. This is what we train. Nobody did anything incorrect. I'm proud about it. If that's what it is, well then be proud all day long. Why would there be a problem recording? We did the right thing. No problem. No reprimand. Everything is by the book on this one. Fine. Say that for the record. Come out. We have nothing to hide. Transparency. That's the word that they use all the time. Those were a lot of the buzzwords that were being thrown around by the same white individual when they were talking with a lot more media, I might add, with the first McKinney incident at the pool party situation. So I don't know why that wouldn't hold true for any further situations that deal with racism. Go ahead. And we also we came back about, I want to say the next day or maybe a day or two later, we went back to the police station to file a grievance. They want us to file a complaint, but, a complaint really is nothing but a slap on the wrist, if that. And so we're trying to file a grievance, and we spoke with the Internal Affairs Department representative, and his name is Officer Agan, and with Internal Affairs, and he states that we can't file a grievance. We have to speak with the Texas Rangers department, but basically he was saying, he was just basically saying that he has to get word from the chief of police in order to handle our investigation. But if he is Internal Affairs, I'm not understanding why he needs to get any answers from McKinney PD, because he's supposed to be investigating McKinney PD, not investigating us. But and like I said, they're real nervous, man. He was nervous. He was fidgety. The chief of police is nervous. You can see it in their eyes. You can hear it in their voice. So they really just don't want us to keep pushing forward with this matter. They want it to just go away, and that's what they're used to. But like I said, we're aware young black men here, so we're not just going to
let it just hang in the air. We talk about these things on a daily basis. We see these things on a daily basis. We try to come up with solutions for our people on how to get out of this mess of this global white supremacy. And like I said earlier in the show, the fact that I attracted this, or this attracted to me, is more of a reason why the fight is going to have to continue. Something is going to have to come out of this.
Context of white supremacy. We'll get some of the folks who dialed in with questions. The number to dial is 760-569-7676, and the code is 564-943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. Before I get to the callers, just kind of reflecting on all of this the situation with the white woman, and then the officers and the subsequent meetings and what have you. Reflecting on all of this, is there anything that you would have done differently? Like, is there anything you say, oh, that was an error there, next time around, or if I had to do over, I would do this differently?
To be honest, I have thought about, I wish I had a firearm, so, when the police put their guns, I wish I would have had a gun, but even if I would have reached for something, I would have got shot, so it would have had to already been out, and we just probably would have been sitting there for hours until their chief of police came and told them to drop their weapon. If I could do it all over again, I would want to stand my ground a little better than I did, but when you got a gun getting tossed around in your face, and you know what happens to black men in the police's hands, it makes you comply. That's why I don't understand why he acted like we weren't complying with him. Everybody was shook up, so nobody ran off, nobody did anything. We were just frozen in fear, and so other than that, those are some things that I battle with as far as mentally what I would have done differently, but I don't know the result of it. So right now, I'm still, fighting for it. I'm still pushing for it. So hopefully I won't have any regrets or any, what I could have done differently after all of this is settled. And we don't know when it's going to be settled officially.
In your opinion, were the officers, did they seem like they were genuinely fearful in dealing with you all?
I'm sorry, you said genuinely what?
Fearful, like they were afraid in dealing with you all?
Oh, no, they weren't afraid at all. You could tell they weren't afraid. Officer Rimpel, I don't know if he gets a raise for shooting a black man or something, or maybe he wants to be one of the officers that gets a fundraiser for $1 million for killing a black man, but it's like he was ready to shoot, so he wasn't afraid, and he was really just punking us. And all the other officers, they weren't afraid also. There was nothing to be afraid about. It was 4 black men outside with their hands up. Like, for instance, I had on sweats with no shirt, no socks. So there's nothing to be afraid of when you see me half naked. So I don't believe they were fearful of anything. And again, if they said that was the second time being there, or if they got a call saying that we were going to shoot them, I don't even think that process would have taken place. I feel like you got 4 black men with artillery, you're coming with the SWAT team, and you're not asking any questions, you're shooting, and that's it.
Before I get to our listeners, I was thinking, is it possible for you to get a restraining order against this woman if she's been on the property and causing all these problems, and then she came right back after the police were called? Is that possible for you to get a restraining order against her?
See, and we asked that the first time when they were there if we could get a restraining order, if there was something that we could do, and they basically just told us that we needed to call them before she called us. Before she called them. So basically we were supposed to beat her to the punch, which makes no sense, because you can't you're calling, how do you get a disturbance call? How am I getting a call for disturbance on my own property? That just doesn't make any sense. And if I'm not the one calling. And I lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's...
with the restraining order, I was just going to say.
But yeah, I'm sorry. You see, now I came back to it. But that's what we're dealing with the police force right now. We're going to the station. We're filing this grievance against the police, and that's why I'm waiting to hear and get the phone call out to the public, so that I can further know her part in this situation, and so that I can get this restraining order or this CTW or whatever I have to do, because we definitely don't want them on the property anymore. So basically, we're dealing with the paperwork of that right now. So it's almost like if it's two cases. We have a case with the officers, and then we're trying to have a case with her too. We just need more detail about our investigation and our cases. Mind you, when I called the second time, when I called the police and they arrived the second time, they never took a report. And when I went to the police station to try to file a complaint or an grievance on it, they didn't have it in the system. So it's almost like I don't know what's up with that. So they're investigating that right now. And they just gave me a card and told me to call in 10 days if they didn't get anything, and you know the runaround.
Very well. Context of white supremacy. We'll hit the phone line, see if folks have any questions they want to get in. Caller at Thomas in New York. Did you have a question for Mr. Andrew Guilford? You should be with us, Thomas in New York.
Good evening. Can I be heard?
Your volume is a little low. If you could speak up, please, sir.
Can I be heard better now?
It's very distant. It sounds like you're very far away from the phone.
Hold on 1 second. Is this better?
Much better.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Gus. Good evening to you, Mr. Guilford.
Peace.
Thanks for coming on. I empathize and sympathize with you. It sounds similar to Dr. Gates when he was arrested for entering his own house, even though he had his ID, if you remember that. You sound like a very good young brother, and I got a lot of love for you, and I just had some words of advice for you, man. Please continue to refrain from dating white women. Don't have any white friends at all. Try to avoid having black friends who date white women or white people, period, at least until the system of white supremacy ends. And please, next time, man, don't have dreams about getting into a guns drawer with the police. Just comply with them. You know, there's no need for you to stand your ground with the police. That wouldn't have been a very good situation for you. You wouldn't have been on this phone right now.
Right.
I'm being facetious with this question. Now, as a black man, how does it feel to live in Money Magazine's best place in America?
Man, to be honest, as a conscious melanin being, I feel like if this is the number one place to live or number one safe or whatever it is, they have to eliminate and exterminate black people. There's no way that this can be America's number one place to live and you see black faces around it. So I feel like, I feel like just for that simple reason right there, that's why when the situation with the little girl at the pool happened and then the situation with me happened, it's like, are they really turning up the heat in McKinney?
They're trying to prove that they're America's best city. We got these niggas right where they need to be, right where, you count them by least. Exactly. A good question with Gus about the restraining order. I was thinking civilly. Do you think to go after the police? But I would go after that white lady. If she indeed did say you guys had guns and threatened to harm her and the police, and it lets you be handcuffed and embarrassed on your own property, I would go after her. Or, if the police made all that up, I would go after them, but in a civil manner. This way you could probably get some money out of it. What did you think about that?
Was that's for me or Gus?
Hello?
Basically, yeah. Basically, I'm just weighing my options with it right now, and that's why I said I'm really trying to deal with the police. I don't know, I'm kind of upset about how they handled it. I don't even really blame the white woman because I don't even feel like, I blame her, but I don't really feel like her motive was for all of that to happen. Nevertheless, with the story that McKinney PD was telling me while they were there, like, we got this phone call and we got this, I just couldn't imagine. Even them saying, like, how they said, this is the second time, or if we come back for a second time, we heard that y'all were going to see it, and they never even came the first time. That was their first time coming. So it just sounds like their story is a story of lies, so her story might be true, you know what I'm saying? Nevertheless, I don't feel like she does. That's why my arrangement that I'm trying to get with her is I want that CTW or I want the restraining order. Best believe, once I get more details from the police with the phone call, if she had more to do with this, then it's all, it's money. That's what we need. That's we want the revenue, but we want to see who we need to get it from first, because honestly, if the police department is the ones to blame, then I want to come at the police department with the heat and with the energy, because that's where I'm at with it as far as in my life right now. But I'm not sleeping on the recessive woman either. I feel like both parties have to give me something, but I just got to weigh my options on where I want my energy, where I want most of my energy to go to as far as right now.
Oh, man, my experience, I know white people know exactly what to say to make the police come and be on their side. What did your parents say? This is my last question. What did your parents say? And what did the black parents or your friends say about the whole ordeal?
As far as
I'm taking my question, sir. Thank you. I'm going to take your answer offline. Thank you, Gus.
All right, peace. But as far as his question, as far as my friend's mom, Prezell, I know she was just pretty upset about what happened. She was surprised, really, and she wasn't there when it happened. So she was surprised, and she was upset, and of course, she doesn't want those women back on her property. And she knows that we're trying to fight and we're trying to do what we can do, so she's just waiting to see what's going to happen and basically leaving it in our hands, just giving us the support that we need. And as far as, like, my parents, my dad is just telling me to be smart. Don't let anybody, try to use their powers or use their cause, try to defend me, really just to defend their own cause and their own purpose. And my mom, she was just so shook up, but she's just glad that I'm okay. I didn't get a negative reaction out of my parents. It's just all love and support, positivity. And like I said, my pops, he's always on me, so he just wants me to be smart, and that's really just it.
All right, well, I appreciate that, Thomas in New York. Person that dialed in, last four digits, 9769, 9769. Did you have a question for Mr. Guilford?
Yes, greetings, Gus and Mr. Guilford.
Greetings.
Peace.
Mr. Guilford, what would you say is the lesson learned from this whole incident?
The lesson that I learned from this incident is that we shouldn't be dealing with white people. Just like Gus said earlier, even though I said, I have a white friend and I have this, and just like my man from New York just called, the bottom line is if we weren't around that environment, or if they weren't around our environment and inside of our energy field, then none of this would have ever happened. Or as far as we wouldn't be able to at least say this happened because of a white woman, or this happened because of this. So the only thing that I can get out of this right now is that I just don't need to be dealing with any recessive beings at this time in my life.
Okay, so since this incident, has your interactions with white people or non-white people changed?
Wait, can you repeat that, sir?
Since this whole thing happened, has your interactions with white people or non-white people changed?
No, it hasn't changed. I understand white supremacy. I understand what I'm dealing with. So it hasn't changed. It doesn't make me love them anymore. It doesn't make me hate them anymore. It's another reminder that a white woman can just pick up the phone and say anything, or just pick up the phone and say she's being bothered by black men on their own property, and the police will come draw their guns on us. So, but it doesn't draw any more love or hate inside of my heart.
Okay. Last question. You said that you took this matter to internal affairs, correct?
Yeah.
How far are you willing to take this issue with McKinney Police Department?
I'm willing to take it as far as they want to take it. Whenever they get tired, whatever they have to do in order to cease it, and that's just what they'll have to do. But I'm not going to back down from the matter, and the matter's just not going to get pushed under the rug. I feel like as long as I have support, and as long as we can keep gaining support of our people and just everybody in general that understands that we got done wrong, then McKinney's going to feel the pressure. McKinney PD just needs to feel the pressure, and we'll get something out of this. Because, basically to answer your question briefly, I'm just not going to give up. It just so happens to be McKinney PD, but it could be any police department. You know what I'm saying? It could be anything. I'm not going to give up. I was already wanting to fight for my people in some form of way, so, you know what I'm saying, this is a nice little opportunity for myself.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Guilford. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Right on. Caller at 5640. Do you have a question for Mr. Guilford?
Hello, Gus and the guest.
Greetings.
Hello, my queen.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that incident occurred. I wanted to know, and I'm sorry if I missed this, I missed a little bit of the earlier part of the show. Have you actually sought legal representation? Do you have a lawyer?
No, I do not have a lawyer.
Okay. I think my advice would be to also seek some kind of legal representation, because remember, the police department has all the legal representation that they need to defend themselves. So I just want to encourage you to do the same thing, so that, you don't miss any, whatever legal rights that you may have, because you were certainly violated.
Right on. And I'm vetting attorneys right now, so but I definitely understand what you're saying, especially if the pressure increases. They're definitely going to have their defense mechanism, so I'm going to have mine intact also.
Right, absolutely. Well, I wish you well, and you'll be in my prayers. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Caller, last four digits. Oh, M1, if you had a question for Mr. Guilford, your line should be open, M1.
Oh, hey, good evening all. Good evening to Mr. Guilford. Gus, callers. Hey, like the previous callers, I just want to say that glad you're here. Sorry you had to go through this. And, sad to say, we just saw this happen with FSU football player DeAndre Johnson.
Right.
We were told, oh my God, he punched this white woman in the face, only to find out later on, which is no surprise, that she came at him with racial slurs, and she came at him with a fist towards his face.
Yeah, she hit him in the face. He hit her back.
Exactly. But if you listen to Morning Joe and other white people, they're like, who is he to hit this blonde woman? Well, it turned out she started it. But somehow she's going to be made to be the victim. So, my condolences to you as well as anyone else in your situation. Also,
yes, sir.
How far are you from Waco, Texas?
Waco, about two hours.
Oh, okay. Reason I ask is, do you remember a few months, not too long ago, there was shooting in a restaurant where these white criminals killed 9 people, wounded 18.
The biker gang.
Yeah. Now, Now, are you aware of the report that the same biker gang issued a kill anyone in uniform order?
Oh, I was not aware of that.
Oh, okay. The reason I asked is I wanted to know if you got any feedback on any Waco citizens being targeted after that particular order. But since you said you didn't hear of it, I guess you really can't answer the question.
Yeah, I didn't know much about that. I know that they had a shootout with the police department. So when the police pulled up. So, but as far as your question, I'm not the one that can really answer it. I haven't really followed up on it. But honestly, man, with the police department, the way they work, half of them is probably in that bike gang, and they probably are targeting certain people out here. So you know how they get down, man. They take off their sheet and they put their uniforms on. They biker uniforms too.
Hey, be as well as you can do. I'll go now.
Peace, brother.
Peace.
Thank you, M1. Caller, it's Joy. Did you have a question for Mr. Guilford? You should be with us, Joy.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Greetings.
Well, my queen.
I'm a little bit confused about it was a mother and a daughter, and what happened to the daughter? Did she leave before the police came, or was she still there?
Yeah, the daughter was in the passenger seat the whole time. So the mother was in the driver's seat and the daughter was in the passenger seat when they got back in the car.
And so she never came out and she never said anything to the police?
No, ma'am. They never, once they left my garage, they both were in the garage and they left the garage and hopped back in their vehicle. They never got back out the car. The young woman was arguing with me back and forth. We were doing our arguing while her mother was on the phone with the police, but that was really it. And like I said, once the police got there, I believe they drove off. Maybe 2 to 5 minutes after that, they were gone.
They left before you were handcuffed?
No, we were handcuffed. While I was handcuffed, that's when I seen them driving away.
Because I was wondering, it seems like, she would be a witness. They would have interviewed her, too, to find out what...
They didn't interview the neighbors that saw what was going on that were outside the whole time. It was a couple neighbors that they didn't interview. They didn't take any statements from the school from up the street, and I don't believe they took any statement from the woman, and she's the one that called.
I hear this often in these kinds of things where they've already formed in their minds what's happening, and they really don't care. It's like even with Tamir Rice, months later, before they interview even the officers involved. So I'm very sorry this happened, but I do hope that it comes out well for you. And thank you for sharing your story with us tonight.
Thank you for listening, my queen.
Let's see. The person that dialed in last 4 digits, 5234. 5234. Did you have a question for Mr. Guilford?
Oh, yes. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Greetings, Gus. Greetings, Mr. Guilford. I'm sorry to hear about what you've been through with the police, because I've had a few minutes with them myself, and it's no joke. I had a couple of questions. What have you learned about dealing with non-white people that choose to be in a sexual relationship with white people, since this incident was facilitated by your non-white friend who actually is in a relationship with this woman, or was, and has a child by her?
Wow, man, that's a personal one, man. It's really just to me, it's a lack of knowledge. I don't want to personally say who, but I have a relative of mine that's close to me, and he's with the white woman, and it kind of shakes me up. But as far as how I just really don't want anybody dealing with that, like anybody around my circle. I try to get them not to deal with white women. But like when it comes down to this incident with my friend, this is somebody that he was already dealing with. He had a baby with. He has another baby on the way. So I look at it like, you know, you put your own self in that position, and now you have to deal with it, and however you have to manipulate that situation throughout life is how you're going to have to play the cards. But like I said, man, I'm not really one for it. I don't really like to see it. I don't like the fact that the media displays black women with white men all the time. You know what I'm saying? We talking about black women, or we talking about black men dating white women, but you know, they steady taking our sisters away from us about a second.
Yes, sir. Tragic arrangements, as they are, is exactly what they are. And I wanted to ask you, have you ever read the work of Dr. Wilson, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, or Neely Fuller?
No, I have not, sir.
I would suggest you heavily that you familiarize yourself with their work if you want a much deeper and richer understanding of racism and white supremacy. And also, have you ever listened to the Cows before, or is this like the first time you've ever called in and ever heard of the show?
Yeah, man, this is I have heard of the show before, but this is my first time calling in, or this is my first time being on the show, of course. I've listened to the show. Well, I believe I listened to maybe one show prior. It was only one. I don't remember what the discussion was, but yeah, and Gus reached out to me and we spoke, and you know, so yeah, I'm definitely impressed, though, I can say that.
I would suggest you go in the archives and look up the episodes that speak on having white friends and the dangers of that, and that'll help you even more as far as your understanding of racism and white supremacy. And just another suggestion, usually there's a law against giving false testimony, so that woman and her mother should be in some sort of legal trouble for giving out basically a false testimony against you that caused you to go through the stuff that you went through as far as being terrorized on your own property. And again, I'm sorry to hear about what happened. I'm going to keep you in my prayers, and hopefully we'll be able to get those things flowing as far as your legal situation. And also just get into those things, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Louis Fuller, and just listen to those back episodes about having white friends and the dangers of doing so. Thanks for being here, brother. You have a good evening, and I'll keep my line.
Okay, thank you. I'll do so.
Let's see, the person that called in, 9607, did you have a question for Mr. Guilford?
May I be heard clearly?
Crystal.
Yes, sir.
Greetings, Mr. Guilford. Greetings, Gus. Thank you, Gus and Justice, for this program. I'm still learning. Mr. Guilford, has this situation impacted you financially in any way? Like, have you had to call off work, or and also has this situation spilled over into your place of employment? Like people asking you questions if you have a job like that?
That's actually a good question. I actually lost my job recently the same week, and it seemed that I lost my job based on discrimination. So I was working at a warehouse out here, it's Timberblind in McKinney, Texas, and basically I had a situation where a young woman, I don't think she was liking the way that I was looking at her, not in a sexual manner, but just the fact that we face each other while we work, and when I would look at her in her eyes, or just look around, look up, she was making gestures at me as if to say, what are you looking at, or what are you trying to do? And she went to another employee that works next to me, because they weren't English, she wasn't an English speaking woman, and she wanted him to translate for her that I need to stop looking at her, I guess. So I went to my supervisor about it, and I told my supervisor, I'm not trying to cause any problem or anything like that. I can't work with my eyes closed and my head down. So I just don't want anything to come up out of this. She's going to employees and speaking about it. So I chose to just come to you about it. So if anything comes out of it, I don't want to look like the bad guy or look like or play the victim role. So I'm just coming to you. And he told me he was going to discuss it with her, and he actually came back and got into an argument with me about the fact that I shouldn't have been looking at her. And so we went to go speak with HR because he wanted me to clock out and he didn't want me working in his department anymore. And it seemed like it had something to do with just them being prejudiced, because even the woman in HR, she told me she knows how my kind is, meaning I like to talk back. And they never got any talk back from me. I hadn't even been working at the place for a month. I received 2 checks, and I was let go. So they told me, sorry to be so long, but they told me to leave work, and I was out of work for a week, and they told me to call my manager, which was on yesterday when he came back from vacation. He didn't want to speak to me also and hear my story. He just told the HR woman that I called that to tell me that I was no longer employed with the company. So right now I'm looking for a job right now.
Man, that's real fascinating. If I can speak on behalf of the cows, on Saturdays there's a program called Workplace Racism, and that right there fits in perfectly, you know. And I can only imagine now, you know, what they're saying about you if you are. Because my second question was going to be, has any other media outlet contacted you for interviews, such as like another podcast or any source of media like that's reached out to you or your friend since the situation happened to both of you, you know, to see if you know this situation is getting a little bit more public or whatever. But it's just fascinating, you know, like Gus says it all the time. Workplace racism is very, very, very important, and you know, it's just not even a coincidence. It's what Gus was saying earlier. It's racism, white supremacy. You know, you can say that they're prejudiced, because I assume now that the supervisor and the HR and everybody are white individuals, and it's just, you know, it's just like these are problems that we go through as black people that are just being compounded on a daily basis. You know, not only are police pulling guns out on you, but you know, you lose your job all in the same week. Like, how is that possible? You know, like, that's a trip. But yeah, my second question. And
I'm sorry to cut you off, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
But also, we say white supremacy, and we got to understand how far that goes, because it's just such a lack of knowledge from our people that my hiring manager is Mexican. My HR woman was Mexican. The supervisor, Mexican. 90% of the plant is Mexican. And the fact that they don't have this knowledge to understand that we are one and the same, and they treat me as if, you know, they're looking down on me. Like, that's why I said it was discrimination and prejudice, because just the fact that I'm a black man, it's almost like they just waited for the opportunity to get me out of that position. And I understand, though, where they come from, and that they need their people to be in these certain positions for their own selves, but that's what I mean. It's just a lack of knowledge, because we're all one and the same as far as colored folks.
Yeah, I feel you on that. There was a program also where there was a lady from Detroit, and she was part of a school board in Detroit, and she had said that Hispanic culture, or Mexicans are, you know, that whole, I don't think Latin is the proper, I don't know, but they were called the preferred race, or it was something like that, you know. And it's just crazy, like, how racism, white supremacy just, you know, in every aspect of life, it just penetrates, you know, even into other cultures. Yeah, this is good, man. But yeah, those are the 2 questions. And I just want to say too that I am also from Rialto, California. I currently live on Riverside. Yeah, so like, it's a small world, and it's cool to hear somebody, you know, from Rialto too. Like, you know, you moved to McKinney, Texas. But yeah, I'm from Rialto. I went to Eisenhower, and yeah, man, if you can, just, you know, continue to keep learning. You know, like, you got a good start, and possibly, if you can, you know, just keep tuning into the cows, and just taking this constructive information, you know, and applying it to every day. But that's all. I'll mute my line. Thank you.
Most definitely. Peace.
Appreciate that. Person that dialed in 6935. Did you have a question for Mr. Guilford?
Yes, Mr. Guilford. First of all, good evening, Gus. Good evening, everyone. I was listening to you. There was a particular incident that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. What the cop said to you when you were trying to tell him to get this white racist woman suspect off your property, and she was trying to tell you she was sorry, and he said, well, you go back, and did he actually tell you to go back
Yes, this man said go. He actually told me to go in the house at that moment. First, he told me to, back up, and I didn't if I didn't need to be a part of the conversation. And she explained to him that she was trying to apologize to me. So I told her I didn't want an apology. When I cut her off and said, "Why are you still on my property?" And that's when he said, "She's trying to tell you why." And I said, "I don't want an apology. I want her to leave." And he says, "If you don't want an apology, then go inside the house." So then he told me to go inside of my house. And I said, "I'm not going inside of the house." And he asked me, "Well, what do you want to be done? What do you want to do then?" And I said, "I'm the one that called. So what I want to do is I want to sit right here and witness what's going to take place." And then he turned to her and said, "Leave the property," just like that.
Wow, that is unbelievable. But I just want to say I'm so happy you survived that incident. You are alive and well to tell the story, and I think you did an excellent job. I'm sorry to hear what happened at work for you. I'm sure you'll find another employer, but I'm just glad that you did survive that incident. I just can't take hearing another one of our brothers, just being snuffed away for such incidents as these happen. So you did the right thing. You survived the incident, and you're here to tell a story. I do hope you do join us in on other, like he said, the compensatory call-in, which they talk about race situations on the job. But I'm just so proud of you, and you stay strong, okay?
Thank you, my queen. I will.
Okay.
Right on. For other folks, if you have a question you want to make sure you get in, you should get your hand up directly before the program wraps up. I wanted to ask, definitely, the pool situation a few months earlier got a lot more attention. It seems like not as many people are aware of what happened with you and your friend, or the four of you. Why do you think this incident so far, at least, has gotten less attention?
Well, for one, I believe that what happened with the young woman, I believe that deserves more attention than what happened to me, based over the brutality that this white man chose to take or chose to use on a 14-year-old black woman. So that I'm upset about that, and I'm hoping that fight is still going on in its own self. And basically, it was a different environment. See, out here in McKinney, where my situation took place, it took place on the east side of McKinney. Most people don't even know that there's homes on that side of town. And definitely, if they come visit, they're not going to know that there's homes over there. There's people living over there. What happened at the pool was on the west side of McKinney, which is where you have the wealthy Africans, so to say, or the wealthy recessive men out there. And so it was a community pool, you know what I mean? That's why they got into an altercation with the racist white women in the first place, that led to the police coming and basically attacking that young woman like that. So it's just it's a different energy. That was definitely going to cause a lot more static, because it was just so many more people out there. Like, it was just ridiculous how many people were out there, and they chose, so that, they got a rally started. I know it's a group out here. I believe they are Next Generation. They know who they are, and they led the protest at the police station for the young woman. They have also contacted me on one occasion. I'm waiting to hear back from them, but so hopefully, we can get some support from them and from anybody else that doesn't know about it or has found out about it. And we're going to just keep trying to broadcast it during our own fight, so that we can just try to make more people aware of what's going on, and just aware of the fact that did happen to me and my friends.
Right on. Did that stand out? Because I just want to get your thoughts. When I saw your situation, it was also in McKinney, and particularly when I got to see additional details about how it was a white woman that was at the core of your situation. I know the other reports, the pool situation was started by some racist white women who were making nasty remarks at some of these young black children that were present. They were not charged in that case. Officer Eric Casebolt also has not been charged, even though he has resigned from the McKinney Police Department. Do you see that pattern of these white women being able to come in and instigate, even though it's not necessarily them holding the gun or the one, but just them being the instigator? Do you see that pattern?
Most definitely. They are, and when I went to the protest, it was amazing how many white women were so, man, I don't even know the word, malicious, the way that they felt about the situation. You know, they're of course on the side of black and blue, and they have no logic, they have no education, they don't know history. And I don't understand. I guess they are abused by their men, and they get cheated on by their men, and they just have attitude problems or something. But the women out here definitely turned up when it comes to the racism. And the men as well as the men. If those same women that were at that pool, I guarantee you that whoever their men are, or husbands, boyfriends, are the same. They are the same type of being. And I'm sad that it's so much going on with women, because guarantee you if it was a man that was in my garage, he would have been knocked out, and I would have been calling the police, telling them to come pick this man up. So I'm tired of seeing all of the white women. We need some of our sisters to stand up to these white women, because our sisters have power in America too.
Right on. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this situation evolves. I hope you all are able to keep up the effort so you can do more media appearances and keep putting content on YouTube, using Facebook and social media, so that people are aware of this situation, and hopefully you can maybe force the enforcement officers. They tend not to do the correct thing in these type of situations, but hopefully at minimum, if you can get some sort of financial compensation for being terrorized on your own property, we definitely want to support you all and do our best to make sure people stay abreast of what's happening down in McKinney. And if it's anything that we can do to help you all out in that effort, just reach out, let us know. You can contact me, and I'm sure other folks who listen and hear the podcast, they will want to do as much as they can to help out and make sure other people know about what's happening down there. Any of the folks that dial in, anybody have a final quick question before Mr. Guilford departs? Assuming folks are satisfied. Is everybody good?
Good.
I have one more question. Thomas Smith from New York again. I just want to know, did he learn anything from coming on the show today? That's all.
Well, most definitely, I definitely have a high respect for Mr. Gus, and just his mentality. He said a lot of things today, especially pertaining to who I keep around my environment, that really hit home. And I can't contest that whatsoever. I learned that, I just learned that it's a lot of people listening, it's a lot of people that care. It really makes me feel good, that people are showing love, and they do care about, a black man out here, And yeah, that's really it, man. I'm definitely gonna start tuning in, though, man. Every chance I get, every opportunity, I'm gonna even be on the calls, man, having some questions for everybody else on the show.
Right on. I would definitely say, because I know you had talked about complying before and feeling fearful when the officers arrived the first time around, and you all were shackled and thrown on the ground and everything. Complying in that situation, that's something we talk about on this program all the time. That is absolutely the thing to do. We encourage that all the time. It's not anything incorrect about it or feeling bad. It's just you're in a weak position. You have probably white race soldiers who have been trained, authorized, and might even be looking forward to using lethal force and killing some black people. It's just not the time to try to make a stand or anything. So I think you all did the absolute correct thing. Preserve your life, live, to be able to speak out and let people know about what happened. But complying, that is the best thing to do, because, and I'm sure it would have been super easy under those circumstances. It would have just been 4 dead black people, dead. They called, threatening police, anti-police, and all that other nonsense. We had to kill them. And then maybe we find out down the road that they didn't have a weapon, or who knows. It might just end up being 4 dead black males. So definitely, right. I'm glad you all complied, and I hope you all feel understand that was the correct thing to do. That was the correct thing to do in that situation, and I'm glad everybody lived to see another day. Is there anywhere like a YouTube page or anywhere that you would direct people to go if they want to get additional information, or if they just want to follow as all of this evolves?
Right now, the best place to follow up on this story would be just my Facebook page, and that's Andrew FTH Guilford GUILFORD, and I'm always every day I'm shooting the link to the YouTube video. I have a YouTube page. It's really for my music, so the only thing that I don't want to give out the YouTube page. I just like to send the link of this video. I put it on Facebook, and that's just where they can contact me at as far as right now. Would be Facebook probably the best way to connect with me.
Outstanding. For folks who follow us, my personal Facebook page, on some of the groups, I have Mr. Guilford's Facebook page linked. So you can check it out, and you'll see his status updates and what have you that has different news links and what have you, so you can get more information on the case, and I'll make sure to keep that linked. So if anybody has any confusion or problems, you can just go right there and you'll see as he updates what's happening. Again, I'm sorry about the circumstances, but I'm hopeful we will stay in touch. And again, at minimum, I hope you get a massive financial settlement for all of the horrors that you had to do, you and your friends had to endure, Mr. Guilford. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of your Tuesday evening with us, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the support.
Absolutely, absolutely. Take excellent care. We'll talk to you soon, sir.
Peace.
Good evening. Context of White Supremacy. We will give a second for folks to share if you have thoughts on this topic. I definitely did not forget what I started off with about if folks have any reflections on George Takei's comments about Clarence Thomas being able to empathize since he married a white woman, and that was restricted at one time as well. But we'll give time for folks if they have any questions on what they heard from Mr. Guilford or anything else racism related. Context of White Supremacy, quick commercial break, and we will be right back.
Was it a hate crime that led to an elderly man being attacked by a group of Jews?
RacismDaily.com, your number one source for global news reports on race, racism, and overt actions of white supremacy. From Asia to the Americas, to Europe, to Australia, to Africa, racism is not a thing of the past, it is our current reality. Be informed, be globally informed. You should be the first to know. RacismDaily.com, RacismDaily.com, RacismDaily.com.
Is racism hurting you? On issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you are not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity, using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open-source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
Do you need a one-stop shop for all of your multimedia needs?
Triumphant Multimedia is a skilled team of professionals with a passion for great marketing and chic design. Our specialties include consulting, brand development, copywriting, and creative graphic design that's second to none. We also offer photography, photo retouching, videography, and video editing. At Triumphant Multimedia, our goal is to provide highly effective creative solutions to suit any individual need or budget. Give us a call at 678-732-8067 or check us out online at trimultimedia.com.
Hi everyone, welcome. This is Justice with the C.O.W.S radio program. If you want to learn about, understand, and counter racism, white supremacy, be sure not to miss a C.O.W.S episode. We keep them jammed, packed with constructive information to sharpen your use of words to help eliminate the system of racism, white supremacy, ASAP. Also, to be able to invest in my counter-racist efforts, co-hosting the C.O.W.S radio program, please visit my blog, justdojustice.blogspot.com.
You're just saying just buckets and buckets of words.
Context of White Supremacy. We should be back later in the week before we get to the Friday book study session. That 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific this Friday, Ben Tillman and the Reconstruction of White Supremacy, third study session. Look forward to that. Again, just check the Black Talk Radio Network page as well as the Facebook groups, and you will get updates for any of the upcoming programs, content. Just stay tuned. If you get confused, feel free to drop an email untiljustice@gmail.com. Let me know if you can't find something in the archives or just have a question, suggestion, gripe, complaint, crazy commentary you want to get in. Feel free. If you don't hear from me, just drop another email. I know sometimes things get lost. I forget to respond or whatever the case. I am a victim. If you don't hear back, just drop another email and we will get back to you. Fundraising for the summer of 2015. Invest if you think the program is constructive. Racism-notes.blogspot.com. Racism-notes.blogspot.com. Listener supported counter racist radio. PayPal button is in the top right corner. If you're not into PayPal, drop me an email and we'll get you a physical mailing address. Huge thanks to all the folks who have invested, supported down through the years. Hope the program has been, continues to be worthy of your time and energy. That said, folks have comments that they want to make sure that they get in. Feel free. If you have a comment about the Clarence Thomas thing, George Takei, anything that you're like, yeah, you should make sure you bring that out in the piece or what have you, that's fine. But I'm really specifically focused on the last sentence in the piece that Takei wrote for MSNBC, where he said he felt it was particularly ironic that Clarence Thomas was opposed to what he calls marriage equality, given that he's married to a white woman and that was not legal not that long ago, and this comparison between those two, because I've seen a lot of that. If you have specific thoughts on that, that would be great. If you have other things, I'm not as interested, but I guess I might tolerate it. And certainly any commentary or observations about what you heard from Mr. Guilford, that whole situation, white women as instigators, absolutely. Anything you have to say about that, feel free. All the folks who chimed in with a hand up, you should be with us.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, there was a situation that he said at his job, Gus, and he said that his boss was white. I think the girl that supposedly they felt that he was eyeballing. Was she Mexican also as well, or no?
I thought that was what he said. The human resources person, I thought he said was so-called Mexican, and seemed like
his bosses. Yeah, and they fired him anyway. How would you? Where does white supremacy reign in that situation? I think that was. I just felt sorry. I mean, here we are with non-white people discriminating against. I guess not their own Mexicans. Like they probably would have looked out for that guy. Had Mr. Guilford been a Mexican, maybe they had a different outlook. So I felt that was a little bit. I don't know. I just felt very. Numb about that. I really thought that was not fair. Him coming to him, explaining, I don't know why they just couldn't reposition him in another spot, like have him back to back, but just completely get rid of him, and him being, his boss just coming and telling him, oh, well, you should stop looking at her, and them all being Mexican, and, oh, that's how you guys, we know you're kind. I mean, where would white supremacy fit into that arena right there? And if it does.
I mean, that's programmed worldwide in terms of anti-blackness, and I guess I would even, before I even get into any of that, these could be white people. I don't use the term Mexican to describe people. That's not a racial classification. There are individuals who are classified as white who live in the area of the world known as Mexico. So that's one in terms of codification. I don't know. These could all just be white people. There's a lot of confusion around that and those terms, so who knows? At any rate, even if these are individuals who are not accepted as white, it is certainly a part of racism, white supremacy, to have the entire universe despise, disdain, and abuse black people, including other black people. I would just call that out. It's just another staple aspect of anti-blackness produced by white supremacy. Call it out as incorrect, and you would just go about the same procedure in dealing with that and trying to figure out a way to minimize, to keep your job, basically, in the context of that particular situation. He's already been fired, but that's what you'd be doing, to try to keep your job and pointing it out as, I'm being mistreated because I'm a black person. It's the same stale standard stereotype as the black male is some sort of sexual beast that must be castrated or fired.
I just find it strange they didn't even try to work it out with him. They just fired him immediately. I just thought that was just so unfair. That's all I had to ask. Thank you very much.
Watch that word fair too on the program.
Yeah, that was what? Racist. Yeah, I'll read my line, sir.
Mary?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, how are you? This is what I hope that all is well with you this evening. And hello to all the callers and everything. Just want to say, good program. I came in at maybe 45 minutes into it, and pretty much got the gist of this young man being harassed by a white female. And did he say how old he was?
He's 23.
Okay. So, I mean, he, seemed to represent himself well to be, and I know he's a grown man, but, still to be fairly young. And I kind of like the way he talked about the recessive, in the melanin, the recessive, the melanin people. But, I just think it was something, because like you say, he has a relative that I think is dealing with a white female. And it's almost sad because, you could almost see that. And I don't know if he said that his brother introduced him to the young white lady that, he said was his friend, and, it's just almost like you kind of see that. But he seems to be pretty strong in that. I know he's gone, but I do wish him the best because, and I wish him the best. And one of the things that I like seeing today, even though it's very painful, though, is just like, I just like seeing that basically now how the history of white women is coming up. Somebody mentioned the ball player at supposed to SFU. He was supposed to be the quarterback and try not to be the quarterback, and now he's dismissed from the team because the video showing him hitting a white girl. But the video also shows her hitting him first and meeting him. I understand she I guess tried to kneel in his road, and I just something else I read said that she called him a nigger. But, needs to say he's off the team. He's the one bearing the cost for, what Becky's done. So, as far as the article with George Takai, or however you pronounce his name, I didn't get a chance to read the article, but you talked about the last sentence, and I just will comment on what you said. It is just as if, because we're black people, we are supposed to support everything. I don't care how decrepit it is, how, just asinine it is. It is just that we're supposed to support it because we're black. I am not in no means a fan of Justice Clarence Thomas. But I do think when he apologized to him that he should have. But I think it gets to the point, because I'm seeing this today, it's just like we should support everything. And it almost seems like the freakier or the freakiest the stuff is, we should be the ones supporting it. Bruce Jenner becomes Caitlyn Jenner. Oh, black people just supposed to support that. Rachel Dolezal, this lying con artist fraud, in my opinion, that's how I feel about her. We should understand that, she's been working in the AATP. She walked the water for us. She's done all this stuff for black people. We're supposed to support her. So listening to me, the craziest behaviors, and I'm, LGBT, the craziest or the freakiest behaviors, and it's just like as black people, we're just supposed to support that. We're supposed to have this almost like, I guess, innate empathy or sympathy for, the man who wants to marry another man, the woman who wants to marry another woman, the man who wants to change himself into a woman, the woman, Chastity Bono, who wants to become the man, and we're just supposed to support that. We're not supposed to think about it. How dare we have the nerve to say, oh no, that's wrong? Because, and I even think that somewhere there's somewhere in that it's just that, well, black people, you're freaks. There's something wrong with you, and we have accepted you. So you should accept what we're doing. And when I just listened to that last sentence that you said that he wrote, that to me is what it sounds like. He should understand he's married to a white woman. And I just think that's kind of like what I'm getting today. We're supposed to support everything, and I don't get into this, but I just mentioned it because, like Bill Cosby, and particularly me being a woman, I'm just supposed to just hate him. He's wrong. Vilify him, crucify him on the cross. I'm a woman. I'm just supposed to do that. And I think that is where we're at today, and that's a dangerous place to be in. But then when you start talking about white supremacy and stuff, the black people, we start going crazy. There's no such thing as white supremacy, blah, 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 blah. So that's how I feel about that. Anyway, I'll mute myself.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good evening again to all the callers. Gus. Before I answer the question, I wanted to know, did you hear this alleged statement that Donald Trump made about Black Lives Don't Matter?
It wouldn't surprise me, but no, I didn't hear it.
Well, they quote him as saying, if Black Lives Don't Matter here, go back to Africa. And they also quote him as saying, if you think we kill you so much, go somewhere where you're going to just kill more of each other. And those were two statements that this website, a few websites, TMZ included, Snoops and the Daily News, the Daily Mail, and all of them are saying he said. As far as for your question, I really don't consider either one to be a real marriage. The power dynamic is just off. You need both a interracial marriage and a gay marriage. But if it's not the level of violence associated with just being black in general. It never was. I don't care, if you were probably a black gay person, you felt the same as all of the rest of black people. But white gays never dealt with the level of violence that comes with being black. So the fact that that law had to be passed for that to happen, I mean, look at all of the history associated with it, with that law having to be passed or being passed, as opposed to this gay thing is just a gimmick. This was done through the media pretty much over the last 20 to 30 years to pretty much force this through America. We never had people forcing us on America. I mean, we've always been the outcasts, the people who can just be shot down and it don't matter, whether we do it to each other or not. And, that's pretty much what I had to say about that. The gentleman was, representing himself very well for a young person. He seemed to have he seemed to be very aware for his age. And, I just hope that, everything was good, he said, except for the part where he said he wished he had a gun. I was like, oh, no, don't wish that, man. You would have been killed. That's what they wish would have happened, And I just had a question for you. I mean, and other callers, because I live in New York, you can't have a gun here. I mean, you get it, I don't care who it is, unless you're a cop, you can't have a gun. But in states like Texas, if you're black, other states where you carry, if you're black and you carry a firearm, do you feel threatened doing that? Because you have the right to in those states. I just wanted to know if any other callers live in a state where they could carry a firearm. Do they feel threatened more so carrying a firearm, especially dealing with law enforcement? And I'll mute my line. Thanks for the show, Gus. Oh, that lady the other day, I wish I was up for that, man. She was practicing racism, the Irish lady, and it just shows how it's a global system. They got the same talk, it's like privilege, and I like the fact that caller asked, tell us some things that white people say. Oh, she couldn't have nothing, or white jokes. It's just typical. I'll mute my line.
Yeah, I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah, folks said, because that was suggested, some of the folks that actually listened to that program live when we had Dr. Lucy Michael on from Ireland. And they said, well, are you going to have a program where people can call in after they get a chance to hear it, since it was on so early? And I wasn't sure if it warranted a full program for people to discuss. But yeah, that was I was curious to hear folks who had a chance to hear yesterday's broadcast. Appreciate that, Thomas. Any of the other folks with a hand up have comments they wanted to make sure they got in?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, just to answer Thomas from New York's number, I live in Jersey. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and Jersey gun laws are very, very strict. So, no, and if I did have the ability to carry a weapon, I wouldn't carry one. Not a black man in America. I'll leave it in the house, let's say, for protecting my property. But outside of that,
I'm from Jersey City. So I know it's the same rules.
Yeah,
same
no
rules.
joke. So, yeah,
anything
definitely.
New York does, New Jersey does.
Absolutely. It's weird because I come to New York to work every day. I work in Manhattan, but I live in Central Jersey now, and I lived in Jersey City before I moved out here. So yes, you're absolutely right about that. And to speak to what Mr. Sakai said, I just feel like I agree with what the I think it was the first female caller said. Black people have always historically been considered freaks. We've been made fun of from Sarah Bartman, and it goes back even further than that. The older thing being on display in the Bronx too. So I believe that to attach that sort of anti-sex behavior to us in their mind is seemingly natural because they've already projected their reality, their historical truth onto us for so long. And we've now been conditioned to accept all of these anti-sex, genocidal behaviors as considered normal and that all people, function in this way, which is basically not historically accurate. And so I think that's part of it. I think that now they're trying to supplant the black people's struggle with now the gay struggle. So in other words, I believe that this is now going to eventually be taught in schools. It's going to take up room in our history books. And it's basically, I think they're developing this to basically supplant black history in America for what it really is. And I think that's a major ploy of theirs. And then to speak to the young brother Guilford, I think he's sharp. I thank God he made it through it because these cops are vicious. And, you know, him and his three friends, as a matter of fact, I'm glad they all made it through it. My wife just had an incident with somebody yesterday that claimed to be a police officer. I really don't believe he was a police officer. And I had to go do a follow-up when I got home from work. She called me at work, you know, to tell me of an incident that happened with her. So hearing his story, and then I have my own personal stories with police. So just to hear what happened with him and the fact that he made it out okay was awesome. I think he's sharp. I think if he can get a few of them episodes of the Cow under his belt, get Dr. Fuller's book, Ian Fuller's book, Dr. Wilson's book, even Melinda Arnou's book, and just absorb all of that, then I think he's well on his way to really understanding the system on a much deeper level, but I think he's feeling sharp to be 23. And I'll meet my line there.
Other folks that are in, if you all have comments on the gun possession or ownership, Dr. Lucy Michael from Ireland yesterday, what you heard from Mr. Guilford were comments on George Takei. Feel free on the firearm. I think that came up a few weeks ago where a black male was basically raising the same concern and saying, you know, as a black male, I don't feel safe doing the concealed carry. If you get the permit and what have you, just the way black people are treated. I think the case that was a few months ago was a black male. He did have a permit for concealed carry. He went into a Walmart and a group of whites beat him up, or I think it might have just been one individual white person, saw his handgun and jumped on him, beat him, and the whole nine. Now, that white person did get arrested for assault because the black male was not doing anything incorrect. He was legally in possession of his firearm. But I know from at least 2 or 3 different people who regularly have listened to the cows and they do own firearms. They've said that just under conditions of war, that they feel like that is a part of their counter-racist code, that they want to make sure that they do have a weapon to defend themselves if something could go bad. I think at least the people that I've talked to directly and even off the air have emphasized that firearm does require amped codification and just making sure that you have your permit and basically making sure that owning that firearm does not create new problems. I think I referenced Blacka, one of our investors, longtime listener. He shared in detail the incident that happened when he was pulled over by an enforcement officer. He does have all of the legal paperwork to own a firearm. He field stripped it, which basically just means you take the weapon apart so that it's not a threat, and explained, had his paperwork ready to show the officers and all that. But just knowing that up front, I'm going to own this firearm, and then I'm going to already think in advance of how I can make sure that this does not create new problems for me, which is why I said that weaponry, once you start getting that, your codification has to skyrocket to make sure that you are already thinking in advance of things that could be potential problems for you as a black male in a system of white supremacy. Or a black female.
Yeah, see, Gus, what gets me is I come from a place where, you know, if cops say gun, they shoot. You know, you got a gun, they shooting. I mean, it's not even logical to be walking around with a gun, you know. So I just wanted to know, you know, how it felt, you know, pretty much, because you cannot do that here at all. You know, I mean, you got a gun on your waist, is shooting. You know.
Absolutely, I totally understand, and I mean that's the sort of thing in terms of codification, knowing, are you going to be comfortable first and foremost? Am I going to feel like, you know, I'm going to be a ball of nerves if I have this firearm, and, you know, any moment I could be shot and killed? Like, just thinking what's going to be comfortable for you. You're supposed to have it to make you feel safer, and just having that in mind. If I have my firearm, How am I going to conduct myself if I get stopped by enforcement officers? If I'm out as a pedestrian and I get stopped and I have my firearm. If I'm in a vehicle and I get stopped and I have my firearm. Just kind of thinking out all those scenarios and, are you going to be able to deal with that smoothly without it becoming something that's a real source of anxiety for you, I think is super. And also making sure that up front, I'm going to be doing everything that I can to minimize the likelihood of me coming in contact with enforcement officers anyway. Like that's why I said so much of it is just about codification, how you deal with those situations and trying to minimize the likelihood of getting in those predicaments to begin with. But it is definitely something to consider.
Have you heard?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add that, Ohio is open carry, and they didn't even give Tamir Rice or John Crawford a chance to say this is a toy gun. They just shot them on the spot. So, I just don't think the open carry part is for us. They don't act like it anyway. They shoot first and cover it all up and, walk away without any consequences. I'm going to make what I had to add. Thank you.
May I be heard clearly?
Yes, sir.
First off, I also wanted to echo the thoughts that Mr. Guilford, he is sharp, and if he does, just codify himself a little bit more. When he was talking about the idea of, best way I can explain it is when he said trusting in white people, like how he can see their personality, if he can codify that, just to the full extent, just being 100% accurate, like Gus said. Basically we can't trust white people because even through the story, it's like, you can say a white person isn't racist, they're not this, they're not that, but all it takes is that one time, like the one time when she called the police, and if the police would have came over there and shot him, that would have been her first and his first and last time, so it's just like, and like I said, like I'm still learning, I'm weaning off all my white friends slowly, or, those that I come into close proximity with, should I say, and, because I know I'm going through it, there may be others, it's like before running into this show, it's like you'll have white friends before, and then we just have to figure out how to minimize less contact with them from the buildup of, having all this contact at a certain point. But just the concept of codification really comes into play. But yeah, I do believe Mr. Guilford is sharp, and as all of us, we're still learning. And when I finally found out what VGQ was, VGQ in that situation too, victim guarantee qualification. It's like he can express however it is that he views it. But as long as we keep learning, we'll get a better grasp on it. With the George Takei, he is a black male, correct?
He is a non-white male, so-called Asian. He was in the Japanese internment camps.
Okay. Gus played a clip. I guess it was the first clip, which was probably yesterday, or I don't know, because I listen to the archives a lot. Not the one he played today, but it was a newscaster lady, and it just shown what Gus talks about when he says about his BFF, Amy Goodman, like, you let two black people go at it, and then you just sit back, and basically what the lady was doing was she was praising him for being, like jumping all over Clarence Thomas, and it's just like, I don't, they'll take the approach like, I didn't say anything, it's just these two people, and all you got to do is, put two black people in conflict with each other, or showcase their conflict, and just step back and just let them go at it, and just codification again. It's like, man, when Neely Fuller Jr. and Dr. Francis Cresswell, and say, just don't name call, like we can't name call each other, and I really appreciate that on this show. the idea of not, like not name calling at any cost. Like it doesn't matter because it doesn't solve anything, like Gus says. And last night with Dr. Lucy Michaels, I was the caller that asked her, what do white people talk about, and it was crazy. Like, she was just like, white people don't talk about black people when we're not around. And I was just like, in my head, I'm thinking like, man, like what blatant racism, like how are you just going to say that? Like, you really going to sit here and say, white people don't talk about black people, but I need to be more codified, in my questioning, I want to strengthen that, and, I'm glad I was able to participate, and I just really want to ask that question, that and about the racist jokes, because I'll hear the caller that sometimes does the prayer, and the caller from Alabama, taking 2 points from them. The caller in Alabama, I remember one show, he was just like, man, don't waste my time. Like, you're wasting my time. There's a lot of callers, and he was just trying to get to the point. So if I could strengthen my codification and not allowing white people to dilly-dally, all day, with buckets and buckets of words, because that's what she was getting into, where she was saying a lot of stuff, but at the same time not saying nothing. And Gus always emphasizes, like, you can sum all that up you said with just the word racism and white supremacy, but they'll try to put 50 million terms and create new terms and all of that. But yeah, it was just blatant how she was talking about, like, white people don't talk about black people when there's no black people around, and I just want to really strengthen my codification and question asking. But with my participation, like, I worked nights, so that's why I was able to participate. It was like perfect. So I was just like, man, let me get in here and just ask some questions on behalf of a lot of the listeners of the Cows, something that I think is important and something that I learned. But yeah, that's all, and I'll mute my line. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for folks listening, and if you didn't get to hear Dr. Lucy, as well as Dr. Fidel Mudawarabasibo, I think I pronounced his name correctly, black male, he was on also from Ireland. They both had some interesting commentary. You can check it out. I think we'll probably be able to get Dr. Lucy back on the program, probably both of them back on the program. So if you get a chance to listen and you think of some questions, or you think it would be constructive to get her on at a time where it might be more convenient for folks to listen, we probably do something that's like later in the day or maybe in the afternoon to see, so more people would have an opportunity to chime in. We'll see if we can make that happen as well. Any other comments? Folks want to make sure they got in from the listening audience. I'm very eager to get that 911 tape. Hope he's able to get it and put it on YouTube and release it widely so folks can check it out to get confirmation if this white chick did indeed say, that they had guns and that they were going to shoot at police, which if I had to put $1 or so on it, I'd probably say that's what she said if I had to bet on it for her to come back. I'm sorry?
I'll bet the same thing. I said I'll bet the same thing.
Right on. Yeah. For her to come back and apologize, which is all the more tacky from what it sounded like, if she kind of pulled off and watched all this go down as entertainment, and then once it was over and they weren't shackled and everything, she comes back around like, oh, let me apologize to these. I mean, come on, man, come on. That sounds just like a super terrorist move by a very refined, very skilled, slick racist. This is a white woman in her 40s. She knows the deal. She's not stupid. She doesn't need a refresher course. Really, if you're calling the police as a white woman, you call the police and you tell them that 4 black males have guns and that they say they're going to shoot at the police, in my mind, you are trying to get these black males killed. Like, does that follow? Does anybody think that that's crazy?
Yeah, that's logical. Yeah, that is. Because it is. It's just like, why would you take anything to the extent of, somebody with life-threatening weapons? It's like when you take it there, it's just not like, oh man, they're acting rowdy over here, which still could get you killed. But when you like bring it in, there's black males with guns. I mean, right off the jump, you just like, yeah, we going in full force, shooting all niggas on sight. Like, that's just how it is. But that is logical.
there.
Heard both of you.
Okay, you can go ahead, then I'll come back.
No, I was just gonna. I didn't catch the first half of the program. I was just gonna ask if it ever came up the interaction or relationship that black males had with the white woman. Was there what was their relationship, or their how did they know each other?
The guest that was on the program, he knew. It was two white women we found. It was two white women. One of them was the mom. The person that was in the video was the white mom. She was in her 40s. There was also a younger white woman, her daughter, who was there. Our guest knew her because one of his male associates had a child with the younger white woman. This black male and this white woman had some sort of argument that was away from the residence of the guest that was on the program. These two individuals migrated to his location with this white woman's mom. They were arguing in our guest's garage. He went downstairs, asked them to leave. The white woman and the daughter did leave. They got in their van and stayed, and they had some sort of disagreement. Our guest, I guess he was arguing with the younger white woman, the daughter. While this was all going on, the white woman got on the phone. He said he did hear her call the police, and she said something about there were 4 black males present. He did not hear her say anything about they had guns, but the police said that she reported that they had guns and were threatening the police, and it ensued from there. He said that the white woman, after the whole incident happened and they were handcuffed and thrown on the ground and everything, the white woman circled back around as though she might have been close enough to watch all of this happen. She circled back around and apologized for her conduct, but that was the relation. The guest, the black male that was with us on the program, he was not in a sexual relationship with her. He just knew her because one of his friends was in a sexual relationship with this white woman's daughter.
Was it asked if that white woman, the mother, if she had been to that house before?
She had been to the house before. He said she had been to the house before.
Okay, so she went up just inside. She'd been inside and been over there before, regularly, just one.
I think he might have said it was a one-time thing. I didn't get the impression that they were homies or friends or anything like that. It might have just been a one-time thing, and she was in the garage, so it wasn't like she was kicking it in his living room or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and then he had to tell him. He told them both to go. But he told his friend to stay. He just said that the white people had to go. Is that what happened?
That's the way it came across to me. That he asked the white women to go. They got in their vehicle, but then they paused and stayed in the vehicle, and I guess that's where they made the phone call to the McKinney Police Department.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. And then she came back later and apologized after the police left?
Correct.
Okay. Reportedly? Allegedly? Yeah. Directly to him, or apologize to the guest, or?
He said he was the only one outside, and she said she wanted to apologize. He called the police back, and went from there.
Okay.
Have you heard? Oh, what?
Go ahead.
Okay, just real quick. Couple of things. Talking about the guns, and you made a statement, Gus, like you said, for a woman to be sitting out there calling the police and saying, "Oh, they're black men with guns." Clearly, a racist. Clearly, just racist. And this kind of goes back, and then we were talking about guns. And I live in Ohio, so I think it's George. She is right. Ohio is an open carry state. And like you said with Tamir, he was immediately shot by the incompetent cop. But the guy that, I think it was the southern part of Ohio, Crawford. And I remember when that story happened, and I can remember saying how my concern is now if white people just want to just play little ignorant, silly games to watch black people to be harassed by cops. And you can call the police, and it becomes, it's like you said, a black person out here with a gun. And that's going to send them into a frenzy. And it is just sad because, people can end up getting killed because white people have fun with niggers. And I hate to say it like that, but that's what it would be. And because they can get on the phone and say anything. I mean, she tells them now she's at his house. She knows that there is no guns, but she tells the policeman, "Oh, it's some black guys with some guns." I mean, it's clearly a racist statement. So this is what I wonder. I don't know if anybody on the line might want to ask, because listening to give you just what you were telling me, calling before me, about these white women, does it seem like you said, his friend had a baby by the white lady's daughter? Does it seem like when they have these relationships that come on, you have to take your time. It just seems like a forcing, like this is the girl's mother, and it's just, I mean, there are words between the guy and her daughter, the baby's mom. But it just seems like to me somewhere that white women were just really, like, she goes over to his property and she's carrying on, and then when he asks her to leave, it's just like, I'm not going to leave. Or like you say, they get in the van and they still sit there. Like this thing just escalates. It just escalates to a place that it didn't have to. And in my opinion, she was the one that escalated. I guess what I'm trying to say, because I don't have much good with white women. The aggressiveness. Is this what I'm looking at? Can anybody help me out? I mean, what am I looking at here?
Oh yeah. If you're trying to say, it sounds like you're trying to say that white women are, aggressive, and they make a pretty big deal about not getting what they want. You know what I'm saying? Especially if they feel as if there's some niggers involved. I mean, a white woman is definitely supposed to be getting what she wants if there's some niggers involved under a system of white supremacy. So I think white women, they kind of understand that pretty early, whether they got to do the tiers or the police or whatever. I mean, they got supposed to get what she wants. That's what all this is about. At least a big chunk of it. White woman's supposed to be happy and good to go. I was going to ask, did anybody know the age of the child, and was the child there, like the one they had involved? Was the child present at the time when the police were called or showed up, and did anybody know how old the child was that they had together?
No, I don't know how old the child that they had was, or if the child was present to observe all of this.
I was going to say, in reference to the what the previous caller was saying about the aggressiveness of white women, I just think it's the attitude that they own everything. It's like, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine too. So even though you're telling me to leave your property, this is all my property anyway. And that was the attitude she displayed. Then the cop came and he codified with her and said, well, she's trying to explain to you, that's why she's standing there, when the cop should have been following his instructions to get her off of his property. So, I mean, everybody went into straight white supremacist codification against the owners of the property, exactly like what happened to Bill Gates. And it just goes to show they just feel like they own everything. Everything's ours, and, you black people are niggas. That's pretty much it.
Henry Gates, not Bill Gates.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my bad. Yep. Henry Gates. Yep, excuse me.
Who do you guys think are more dangerous, white men or white women?
I would say women.
I've seen women. Women got the ability to come across in a way that has people to kind of lower their guard a lot more. I think to have victims lower their guard a bit more than white males. And white women are real good at befriending black females or non-white females to get closer to non-white people. So I don't know. It's a lot of what's the word? Just a lot of cunningness that they use to get what they want.
I'd agree with that. I mean, well, I'm a female, so I know like the games that women in general, can play. Cause we come with smiles, and we come with sweet talk, and we come with tight dresses on, and pushed up boobs and stuff like that. So we know the things that can disarm men. Now throw in white woman and throw in white skin, And that, that'll knock a whole lot of black men just had a head spinning. So I agree 100%. And I like I said, because people think, oh, you're a black woman, you're just jealous. It's not jealous. It's just being able to see. The young man before me said, cunning. And the Bible speaks about Satan being crafty and cunning. That white woman ain't nothing but a devil. In the capital D-E-V-I-L. And as painful as it is for me to say this, black women, just women, period, we can be very devilish. That white woman got that stuff down to a science. And I'm going to say this, and I'll leave my mind. I was listening to a video by Dr. Laila Africa one day last week at work, and he was talking about, black men and black women and with white, dealing with white people. And he was saying something about white people think very militaristic, and he was saying really that as black people, we need to think like them to be able to defeat them. But he said the white woman is driving the whole thing, and he said she's very militaristic, and he just made a statement. He said, any woman that will make you take your baby off of your breast and put her baby on your breast, and back in slave days, black women were the wet nurses for those white kids. He said, basically, that's a dangerous woman. He said, that's a very dangerous woman. So she, while I say women, we may have some devilment in us and devilish about us, but that white woman is just a devil. So I think in terms, and her and the white man, they work hand in hand. And that is something that we have to recognize and realize. And I'll mute myself.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I hope after this incident that a lot of black men can truly see, and hopefully that the guest that we have on today can educate his friends about how, this incident was all brought about by a white woman. I just don't know for the life of me, audience, how black men can get with white women knowing that at a drop of a dime, the power they have over them to get them killed, to get them jailed. It's just so much. Just a gun mentioning or just look what happened at the plant. You're looking at the person wrong, looking at the white woman wrong or whatever. I don't know how they can be compelled to do that, knowing at any instance that everything, even if they're a superstar or whatever, things can just be taken from them. I just don't understand it. I really don't. Maybe somebody can explain to me, is it really I got to have her, or I want what the white man can, has or whatever. I just don't understand it, that their livelihood can be taken at a drop of a dime. Thank you, and I'm moving my line.
There's a whole... Go ahead, somebody else. I was just going to say, it's I don't know, ever since I've been on this planet, there is a whole lot of push to get people all over this world to be, deeply... attached to and attracted to white people, but particularly white females. I think that message works. It has an effect. No matter where you are, even if you don't ever see white people in your area of the world, if you catch enough, media, enough programming, you're gonna think having sex with them is probably okay. Or something to do. So I think that's a big part of it, and I think too it's just. Like earlier I was saying, they got the ability to, be real nice, and everybody likes to be smiled at and all that, and so you get in your guard drop, and then I'd be thinking, sex is a strong motivator. Racism and white supremacy is a strong motivator. Sex is a strong motivator too, and so you got some things. That's my 2 cents on it. You have to have a purpose that's stronger than feelings sometimes, in order to get through it until you understand what you're looking at, until you understand that you might have just been hit with a whole lot of brain traction enough to where you're looking at something that's not that attractive, but, something in the back of the mind might tell you it is until you see different, so.
I was just gonna say, when I was hearing, we were describing the white women and saying that they were aggressive. And I know it's just an adjective to describe them, but I think we need to be aware to make sure that we don't minimalize the choice of words, like what Gus always says, and I'm starting to realize and understand what he's saying more and more, that it's racism, white supremacy. Because when I heard the word, like, are the white women aggressive? And like I said, I know it's just an adjective to describe, but I in my head I heard when white people use the jargon, microaggression, like these are just microaggressions and these are just, those type of things. And for us to say that they're aggressive, it's more that they're just practicing racism, like, is what it comes to in the end. And then I also wanted to see if anybody caught when the guest talked about the response time of the police officers. And, it seemed like it was predominantly a more black neighborhood. And he was just like, he said he was surprised by how quick the cops showed up. And in my head, I was thinking, like, white women in danger, like, they're on the scene, like, we're getting there, And I just thought that was interesting. It stood out to me that their response time to come save, or to go practice racism, basically, is what it is. Like, we may get an opportunity to shoot a nigger. I'll mute my line.
Yeah, I think how words are used is critically important, too, particularly for trying to to replace white supremacy with justice as soon as possible. How we use words and the choice of words is important. When I was saying that white women are aggressive, I'm saying, yeah, they're practicing white supremacy, and one of the ways it will look when you see them practicing racism is that they use a lot of, words and action that comes across, probably more aggressive than the average person in order to get what they want. They have, they're pretty bold, to say something or to do something, to make a move, to get things they want, and in comparison to, people that aren't white women, in my experience.
Yeah, I understand.
Right on. I will assume folks are good for the day. We should be back later in the week. Just check the Black Talk Radio Network page and you'll get the updates. You check the Facebook page as well, and we'll have the updates for later in the week. 911 call, I'm waiting to see if she did indeed say that they had guns and were going to shoot the police. I probably put my money down that she did indeed say that. Anywho, if you get confused, if you want to find Mr. Guilford, his Facebook page or what have you, just let me know, and I'll make sure you can get in touch with all that. Pay attention. Send this one out if you have younger people, 20s, teens, whatever, and they hang out with white people. They think it's all good. We're having a good time and everything. Might be something that you want to run by them, just to let them know that you can definitely be putting yourself in danger. And that's one part of counter-racist code that I think all of us shouldn't be that difficult to put in play. Even if you have brothers, sisters, other family members, friends, whatever the case may be, these are black people, victims of racism in your life. And if they marry a white person or they have a white friend or whatever else, white folks that they got to have in their life, just make it clear. I do not, under conditions of white terrorism, I do not have white people around my house. Unless, this is the property manager or whatever, and somebody, he's got to be there. But I mean, in terms of just voluntarily having white folks hanging out on my property, around my residence, or even knowing, the exact location for where I live, I just don't, give that out frivolously. So if you're married to a white person, do not bring him to my residence, and just make that very clear with all of your non-white pals, if they have white friends or white, sexual partners or whatever the case may be. And even if they don't, just make that very clear so that that's something that does not happen. Because that's, as he said, that's one thing. If he just had that rule in place, do not bring any white person to my residence, this whole situation would have been negated. That's why I say, when we end the program, when I say sobriety would be best, no consuming of alcohol. I should ask that too. No consumption of alcohol under conditions of white supremacy, that we really should try to minimize intoxicants, and that you don't want to consume alcohol around other white people. Watch your space. If it's going to be white people there consuming alcohol, probably don't want to be there. If you just are going to be consuming intoxicants, you probably don't want to do so if there are going to be other white folks around, because things can go bad in a hurry. He said he was sleeping, our guest, Mr. Guilford. Imagine how much worse this could have been if he had been under the influence and not thinking correctly when things started to go bad. He might not even be with us at this moment. sobriety would be best under conditions of war, and definitely codification. You do not want white people at your residence hanging out and what have you. Be very, very codified about how you're going to have contact with white folks, particularly once you're away from the job, just to make sure that things don't escalate and you don't have unnecessary problems, conflict. That said, feel free, drop an email if you get confused, have any questions, problems. We will be in touch. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope it was a constructive investment of your Tuesday evening. Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in touch with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Context of White Supremacy signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.